even up the score. No one can ever take them down. The power lies on their side. Go, go, Power Rangers! Go, go, Power Rangers! Go, go, Power Rangers! Mighty Morphin Power Rangers! It's the Freakacast! Talking video games and Lego. It's the Freakacast. Cartoons and superheroes. With Andrew the Idea Man. And Matt the Builder. We're gonna make a show that's killer. Freaks in, freaks out.
It's Morphin time! Dragon Zord! Tiger Zord! Mastodon! Pterodactyl! Triceratops! Saber-toothed Tiger! Tyrannosaurus! Go Go Power Rangers! Yep. Da-da-da-da. Awesome theme song. Oh yes. Very 90s, very Kid Rock friendly. Well, I don't mean Kid Rock like the person, but like kiddie kind of rock. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, especially, how old? I was, I think, 10 or 11 when it first came out.
Well, it came out, we're getting ahead, but it came out in 93.
Yeah, okay, so I was about 11. So it certainly played to that preteen kind of group.
It's like when you start discovering rock and roll for the first time.
Yeah. When you realize, wow,
you can actually play guitars fast.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is the Freakacast. I'm Andrew Felson.
And I'm Matthew Puetz.
And we are not Power Rangers.
Unfortunately.
But we are the Freakacast.
We are the Freakacast.
And we are back and enjoying life at the moment. Right, Matt?
Yes.
So, it's a brand new year, so we're still basking in that brand new year-ness.
New yearness?
Yes.
That's easy to say. Say that 3 times fast.
I can't.
Okay, I can't either. That's why I was hoping you could do it.
So I just want to get the stuff out of the way so we can get right into our topic, which is Power Rangers. The
Power Rangers.
Of the Mighty Morphin variety.
Yes.
So, if you want to find us on the web, afelson1.wordpress.com. That is AFELSON 1.wordpress.com. Also, we are on iTunes. Look us up under Andrew's Brain or the Freakacast. You'll find us both there. And we are also on Stitcher, which is an app for your phone or your iTouch or your mobile device. And both iTunes and Stitcher work similar in the sense that older episodes get bumped off while newer episodes are put up. So if you want to find our old stuff, go to the WordPress site, and they will all be there. There's a drop-down tab for podcast. They'll all be there for you. And both iTunes and Stitcher are free, by the way.
Yes, and if you're not familiar with Stitcher, it's basically kind of like Pandora is for songs. Stitcher is that for podcasts.
Yes.
So you can, if there's a certain genre of podcast you like, or if you specifically look for ours, you will pull ours up, but it'll also tie it into other podcasts which are similar in theme.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the big ones they have is Smodcast, and they have a bunch of other good ones they run.
I'm not sure if the Forcecast or some of the other ones I listen to are on there, but I've briefly used it just to kind of see what it's like. It's pretty easy. It's very easy to use, which is nice. You don't have to set up an account or anything.
And it is free, which is nice.
Yes, free. Free stuff is good.
Indeed.
Unless it's cancer.
Yeah. Can't argue with that one.
No.
Also, look us up on Facebook for the Freaka Entertainment. We actually have the Freakacast logo as our icon.
Yay!
So look us up there. We are still running the Scrampster contest.
Yes, continue with the Scrampster contest. We have yet to receive any Scrampster drawings. We want to see your Scrampster drawings.
Yes. That's really all we need to say at the moment.
Well, yeah, it's because that's all we have.
Want to, again, plug songstowearpants2.com for the awesome theme. So if you want your own theme, go there.
And also check out Songs to Wear Pants 2 on YouTube. He's got a channel that's actually pretty good. He does a lot of cool videos with the songs that he writes.
Very, very experimental, very indie rock-ish. But he does more than rock, really.
Yeah, well,
or just indie song, I should say.
Yeah, indie song, because he's got a lot of variety of the different styles of music he does. And he's a very talented young man. Always coming out with new stuff pretty regularly, at least once a month or something like that.
At least. I mean, he gets enough traffic on his normal site to generate song content.
Yeah.
So he'll always have stuff to write about. Plus he has plenty of original stuff that he can do.
We should see if he can write a song about Squamsters.
I bet he could. I have to pay him for it, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. But...
I did have to pay for our wonderful theme song, but he does do free requests. If he likes your request, he will do it.
Nice.
Which I think is where the one that you had stuck in your head for months came from.
Oh.
Was just a free request.
Okay. Well, the power of free requests, apparently. So there you go, people. Send him a request and see if it'll get stuck in someone's head.
Pink fluffy
unicorns dancing on rainbows. That's called Inception. It is. Somebody planted that idea in his brain. He wrote a song about it. I heard it, and now it's stuck in my head. That's Inception.
And then you played it in the classroom and got it stuck in everybody's head.
Yes.
It continues. I also want to plug newgrounds.com. I had gotten a lot of free music there. They have an audio portal that you can submit music to and take music from. And because it is royalty-free music, I'm able to use it with no problems.
Yay.
Some of you may have noticed that I used the theme song, one of the songs from the Batman Nintendo game, as the ending song for our last episode. And I got that from Newgrounds. I know you wouldn't know what it's from, but it was Batman related.
I have to be honest, I actually have not finished listening to our most recent episode.
Well, there you go.
Unfortunately, this past month has been very busy for me, and I haven't had as much time to listen to it as I would hoped.
It's all right.
So,
but now you know when you get to it, it is in fact a Batman song. Okay. It's just from a video game.
Well, that makes sense.
And I got it from Newgrounds.
There you go. Awesome. I also want to plug, obviously, BatmanandFilm.com, but also ModernMythMedia.com. They do a really great job with their website. Obviously, it's comic book related, but you're going to find all your great news for movies, comics, novels, that sort of thing. And they have a podcast as well. You can find them on iTunes. They do a great job. They're called The Gentlemen, as they like to pride themselves about. But I like their show because it's very well balanced. You have a lot of different mixings of different ideas about the different characters and different ideologies. You might have somebody who's a Superman fan and a bunch of, people who are, they're cool with it, but they're not like super fans of it. And then you might have one guy who's like pretty much against Superman as a character. So that mixing creates an interesting balance.
Those people exist?
Well, I shouldn't say that they hate Superman as a character, but they don't care for that character as much as other characters, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So it's a good balance. They also provide a very entertaining show. They're not quite as clean as us, to be quite honest, but they still provide an entertaining show. Something to kind of pass the time, but also get your news fix. And they do pretty good, interesting analysis of, for instance, I think they've analyzed the trailer for Dark Knight Rises more so than I have on the... I forget to tell you this. They actually had, on their Facebook page, they had a place where you can go in and they would just take questions from different people about the trailer. And I actually posed a question of, on the shot where you see that guy being pulled out from under a desk by a bunch of those guys, I said, I wonder if it's Alfred. And they actually answered that question on the podcast.
Well, how about that?
I was like, that's pretty cool. It's not quite as good as getting a Jimmy Mack investigative report on the Forcecast, a question about Death Star bathrooms, but still cool that they answered a question on their podcast that I put up there on the Facebook page. So that's another thing they do a great job at, and you guys can do that as well. If you can go on our Facebook page, post questions that you have about anything, we'll be more than happy to answer it on the show.
Yep. I have nothing more to add to that.
That's kind of why I stopped.
I do want to just remind everybody, please, for the love of everything, do yourself a favor. Don't look at spoilers. It's just not fun.
Yeah. Trailers are okay. That's what the studio has released. Yes, legally, intentionally. Intentionally is right.
Intentionally.
But if you see something that's not a trailer or obviously the prologue, if you're lucky to see it, yay for you. I live in a state that does not have an IMAX theater that plays it in 7mm film, so I haven't been able to see it. But for those of you who have, I hear it's a wonderful experience to see it on IMAX. Mm-hmm. It's truly something different than what you're going to see even in a regular movie theater.
Right.
But also, that's been intentionally released. If you see anything other than either the prologue or the trailer, you're spoiling yourself.
Just don't do it. It's just going to ruin the fun for you.
It is. Especially after my stupidity with episode 2. Don't watch spoilers. It's because it spoils it for it.
Yeah,
it's like knowing what you're getting for Christmas before Christmas morning and you open it.
Yeah. This is totally not related to Power Rangers in any way, but I had learned that the hard way as well, but it was with wrestling. Because certain shows were taped, like they were pre-taped, so
right.
people would post the results online. I would read them, and then I'd have no motivation to watch it.
Ah.
And then on one hand, it's like, well, this could be a forgettable show. Let me just see who's on. But then you're like, even if it wasn't the best of shows, there were still highlights that I wish I had seen, and I just...
Yeah. Something that you're missing the experience of watching it for the first time.
Yeah, but
and of getting your initial reaction to seeing this take place instead of reading about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really had to learn. I was like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I had to learn the fact that, yes, it's pro wrestling. It doesn't really matter who wins in the long run. It's the performance.
Right.
And just reading it on paper doesn't not actually do it justice.
Right. It just doesn't.
So I actually learned that way that, spoilers are just not worth it. Don't do it.
Nope. They're not.
So I've never actually seen...
And do us a favor, and if you... And be aware that there are people who will post things just to post it. And if you happen to see a spoiler by accident, don't post it. Because then you're just spreading that bad spoilerage to everybody. Yes, I did it. I added edge to spoiler. Because it's that much more awesome.
By the way, you know who we want to thank? The 90s.
Yes.
We want to thank the 90s.
Well, they made us the men we are today.
Which may or may not be a good thing. So, thank you, 90s.
Hey, the 90s were good to me.
Yeah, they were okay. So, back to Power Rangers.
Yes, oh yeah, we're talking about Power Rangers.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
So how did this whole thing get started anyway?
Well, a lot of odd things were going down.
Well, it was the 90s, so that was kind of...
Yeah. It's one of those things where companies from all over like, how do we make money, but also make good television?
Yeah.
So it started off actually not here, but in Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, now, I want to make a point here. It's an interesting concept. Something that starts in Japan, somehow Americans take it and change it up. This sounds oddly familiar. I'm kind of thinking, I don't Mario?
Oh, just, almost everything Japanese that comes over here.
Which basically proves that Americans are not really good at coming up with ideas. They're like, we must steal it from the Japanese and then modify it.
And then sell them back our modifications.
Yes.
Sell it back to them.
But it'll be made in China.
And sewn in Korea.
And sewn in Korea. And occasionally Taiwan.
Yeah, sometimes Taiwan. And then shipped to Mexico for whatever reason. And then back to us.
Yep.
Where it's brand new, sold at Walmart for $1. And we're like, wow, that's American.
$1 though.
But yeah,
So it started off in Japan.
They had a show. Japan is known for having a lot of action, a lot of craziness.
Yeah. If you've ever seen any kind of classic kung fu movie, it's crazy.
Yep. And to be fair, a lot of good content comes from Japan.
Yeah.
Well, we were joking before, but they've made some really cool things, and some things.
Akira Kurosawa.
Sure.
The well-known Japanese filmmaker.
Oh, okay.
George Lucas actually kind of the overall story idea of, how in episode 4, you're kind of following the story of the two droids. Mm-hmm. Well, he took the idea from a Kurosawa film called The Hidden Fortress, where the story actually follows these two peasants.
Okay.
So.
All right. I'll go with you.
You have I'm sure you've heard of the movie The Seven Samurai?
Yes.
Okay, that's a Kurosawa film.
Okay. I have
yet to seen it, actually.
I think I've seen bits of it.
I would love to sit down and watch some Kurosawa films, because they are very well regarded and very well known.
But anyway.
But Kurosawa did not make the Power Rangers, did he?
They did not.
Unfortunately.
I don't know exactly who made the original stuff, but I know the company Bandai was the one that initially brought it over here. And what they did was it's a Super Sentai show, which I think is a mix of, it's supposed to be Japanese folklore / kung fu.
Okay.
And then superpowers, superheroes, and teenagers. I think that's...
Okay, so
it's not...
a combination of different things.
of a lot. It's a genre. It's like, I think Sentai is supposed to be the genre.
Okay.
That kind of categorizes. And I'm going to let Matt try to pronounce this one.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. I'm going to say, I'm probably going to butcher this thing horribly, but just bear with me. I believe it's called Kyoryu Sensei Zyoranger.
That's K-Y...
Yeah.
O with a thing over it. R-Y, U with a thing over it.
It looks like a line to me.
Yeah. Sentai, which is pretty easy to say. And then Zyuranger, which is Zyuranger. Which,
we can see the word ranger in there. So
Yeah.
we have Sentai, which, has something to do with super powered, and then Rangers. So even from this title, we have some idea of super powered Rangers.
Yes.
Which is not far off from what we call the show in America.
Mm-hmm. And the show we got in America is a strange hybrid beast thing.
Isn't it?
It is, because the original show has absolutely nothing to do with what we got.
Oh, very true. Well, then again, that's typical of bringing something over from Japan.
Yeah, but I could talk on and on about that sort of thing, but it's not going to make a whole lot of sense until we actually start talking about the show proper.
Right.
When it actually brought over here in '93.
Okay.
And they're like, Ninja Turtles is still going pretty strong, but it's starting to fade. So I think Bandai was like, they like the ninja stuff. That's clear.
Yeah.
I think the time is right to bring a show like this over. I think the American audience is ready.
Yeah.
For something like this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And they did. And instant success.
Obviously, we remember it like it was yesterday.
I know. It was just like 1 minute it was Ninja Turtles. The next minute it was Power Rangers. Oh my God, this is awesome. Kung Fu.
I can't exactly say that, only because right after Turtles, it was Batman.
But it was kind of
And
still
it was
there.
Batman all the time for me, with a little bit of Power Rangers thrown in.
See, I remember being way caught up in the whole Power Ranger craze. That was a big thing at the time.
I wasn't caught up in it. I watched the show, but I didn't have any of the merchandise.
We'll get to that.
So I was not because for me it was Batman.
That's
if
fine.
it wasn't Batman,
that was certainly on the list of
it
shows
was
I was
not
watching.
something that I. Oh no, I'm not talking about the show. Obviously the show, but show, merchandise, costumes, comics, anything I could get my hands on that was Batman, it was Batman. It still is, but
I know he's wearing a Batman shirt right now.
I forgot. I totally forgot what kind of shirt I had on.
We're currently surrounded by images of Batman right now, so it's
and Arkham and Wayne Manor and
Iron Man for some reason. But hey,
well, he's got to keep Batman in line.
He's the token Marvel character.
He's Marvel's Batman. He's
Sure.
a playboy billionaire philanthropist. He uses technology to stop villains.
Yeah, no superpowers.
Yeah, there you go.
Unless you count intellect as a superpower. Anyway, back to Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers, as they say.
Yes, the train of the Power Rangers is not going because we keep getting derailed.
Must be the Putty Patrol.
The Putty Patrol is going up the tracks of the Power Ranger train.
As they would. Must be those stupid Z kinds where we just go, poke, boom!
Yeah.
Which was...
So anyways, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's actually kind of rein this back a little bit and talk about the first of all, you talk about how the show started in Japan, but it came over and then it's nothing like it was here. Well, let's explain.
Okay.
What was it? Obviously, I know a little bit about it.
Okay.
They have no idea, so we should tell them. What exactly did they do to create the show?
Well, the best way to do this is to actually dive into the plot.
Okay.
Which is, in the year or something or other, somewhere in the 90s,
Yeah.
it's in Angel Grove, California.
Place I've never heard of.
I'm sure it exists.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. California does.
Yeah, California does.
Peaceful town. But somewhere on the moon, an evil capsule is opened, and Rita Repulsa has emerged. And she decides to take over the Earth because there it is.
Okay.
And it's in the intro. I'm not breaking any new ground.
I know.
So a foe of Rita, a wise guy who's happened to be a head in a tube, named Zordon. Well, he was.
No, I know. A wise guy who happened to be a head in a tube.
It was silly then. It's silly now.
Oh, of course.
Just makes it more silly when you say it out loud. It's Zordon, the wise sage. What is he? He's a floating head in a tube. Wow, that doesn't sound as cool as I thought it was.
Big news from the big giant head. Those of you that have seen Third Rock from the show, or Third Rock from the Sun, sorry.
Third Rock from the Sun. You know, he senses that evil is going to approach the Earth, though she never actually attacks any other place on Earth, just conveniently Angel Grove.
Yeah.
Which I was like, if you want to defeat the Power Rangers, go somewhere else.
Go to New York.
Where they aren't.
Yeah. But then again, this was the 90s, and they realized, hey, you know, other than the folks over at the Warner Brothers cartoons, who actually knew that kids had a brain, everyone else decided, hey, they're not going to know if this makes any sense.
Well, I mean, to be honest, they did have teleportation. So, in theory, if she did attack somewhere else, they could still beam there.
That's true. I mean, couldn't they? Yeah, because I think the actual place that the Zordon's lair was nowhere near Angel Grove.
It was in a mountain somewhere. They never actually said where it was.
Yeah. But I mean, it could have been halfway around the world, for all we know.
Yeah, for all we know. So he decides to pick 5 teenagers.
Yes.
To battle this evil.
And conveniently, they all go to the same school, and they all are always color-coded with the color of ranger that they're about to become.
That helps to keep who's who.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious as to why he didn't pick 5 teenagers from around the world.
Well, I mean, considering that the initial group was pretty diverse, he didn't really have to.
That's true.
Yeah, it was already there.
Yep. So he picks these 5 teenagers, and then what?
And then they become the Power Rangers and fight evil.
Wait. They just become the Power Rangers? They don't have to go through some sort of, I don't know, training?
No.
What a cop-out.
Well, I mean, there was somewhat of a learning curve in the first couple episodes for them. Okay. But it was more of like, well, how do these things, like, how do our powers work?
What are their powers? Because the only power I ever saw was that it puts on their clothes. I always thought that's their superpower. They can put on the little morphing thing puts on their clothes. It's like, I can do that.
I don't think they ever actually went into detail on what exactly their superpowers, quote-unquote, were.
Yeah.
From what I gather, it's the fact that, well, the clothes act as armor, definitely, because if I was hit with a sword, I would die.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're hit with a sword, sparks fly off their chest, and they roll to the ground, but continue to fight.
Okay.
So that's certainly one thing. 2, I mean, they were able to use their vehicles and weapons. I don't think anyone else could use it if they weren't a Power Ranger.
So it not only puts their clothes on, which happens to be armor, it's also a key to the car.
Yes.
Okay? I'm waiting for the superpowers.
I mean, it might enhance their strength. I mean, the only one I can pinpoint, like, 'cause he did it most often, was the Green Ranger, and he, like, shot, like, power beams and energy blasts, like, from his hands.
I don't remember that.
He did it more than once. Okay. Like, I remember, like, when he was, I'm skipping ahead, but, like, when he first appeared and he was bad, he kind of did, like, a Hadouken move where he's like, oh, God! It was, like, this big green ball that just blew up the whole
That's kind of cool. See, I don't remember that.
Yeah, so, like, and he also, like, shot just energy from his dagger a lot.
Okay.
So I know he definitely had more going on, and I think he still had that when he was the White Ranger.
Okay.
So I'm guessing, again, like, because this was all edited together, it's not quite clear.
Okay. Well, you say edited together, you know.
Well, here's the part where it gets tricky.
Okay.
That's kind of where, like, you're starting to sound convoluted. Yeah, because when you really step back and look at it, it kind of was, but it worked.
Yeah.
In a strange yet awesome way.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of, we loved it as kids, we look back on it now and we're like, wow, this is kind of cheesy. But I must say, from a TV show producing standpoint, and from the standpoint of actually making it work, quite honestly, sheer genius.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you can cite all the things you want about Power Rangers. It's cheesy, it's kind of lame. You know, some of these things are a little weird, but, like, the fact that they were able to put together what they did, and the time and effort they took to actually do it, makes you like, well, bravo, it worked, and you duped us.
Yeah.
We bought your stuff. So you got your money's worth, and hey, it's still on.
It's still on. Go figure that. You know, holy crap. Next year will be 20 years of Power Rangers.
I know. It's still going.
That's insane. I don't know who watches it, but they still continue to sell the costumes at Party City.
And they still make merchandise.
Still have the merchandise.
And the one dude, guy who played the Green Ranger, Jason David Frank is his name.
Yeah.
He was there for almost all of it. So he was the longest running cast member.
He was also the coolest.
Yeah, he was.
He was also dating the Pink Ranger,
which
it was never officially said. But come on, he was with her,
and we're like, we feel you, bro.
Yeah, that's why we always wanted to be the Green Ranger.
We're jealous of you, but on the other hand, bravo.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually one of those things. He was kind of that romantic hero. Like he was a decent looking dude, but he also had the coolest suit, had the coolest Zord, and he got the hottest girl. It's like that's your classic romantic hero right there,
So anyway, to give a little background information, the initial show that we're going to be talking about specifically, because the ones that's still on today we stopped watching long ago.
Yeah, basically after 95, we kind of stopped watching.
Right. The one we're really focusing on, the one that we have our best memories from, is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah. The good one.
The good one.
Well, out of them, the good one.
Because they added like Zeo, and then they had Police Space Squad something. I don't know
what the heck it is.
We're
talking about the ones where their helmets were in the shape of their dinosaur's head.
Yeah.
Those were cool.
Those were cool.
I want one.
I did too.
No, I mean, I still want one. I want one now. Especially after we've seen some really good cosplayers.
Yeah.
Holy crap, I'm going to beat you up for your helmet.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I saw an awesome picture where it was the Green Ranger and the White Ranger playing air hockey.
I think I saw that, actually.
And I'm like, man, I wish I was there for that.
Yeah.
I would have just been like, this is awesome beyond everything.
Yeah.
So I don't care if I'm 20-something years old. This is great.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So one of the things I'm trying to get at with this, and I keep bouncing back and forth because it's an odd thing to explain, really, was the initial show, the Sentai show, is, very, like all the cast guys are all Japanese, obviously.
Right.
Japanese. And it's all based on Japanese folklore and stories.
Right.
And then when it comes over here, it's totally not, where all the live action stuff, that's people without the costumes, are all filmed here.
Right.
But then when they do the action, it's not them.
Right.
Only in certain parts is it them.
Okay.
So it's all dubbed.
Yeah.
And in certain cases...
Which is why they move their hands a lot when they're talking.
And their heads.
Yeah.
So it's like, Tommy, get that guy.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yes, but they can clearly see while they're listening to us.
Right.
On the non-video format. That was good. Andrew was shaking his head during that scene.
Like an odd puppet. And there were some they had a lot of reused footage.
Yeah.
Like certain,
anytime the Zords came out.
Anytime the Zords came out, so anytime they could use... And they had, plus I think they introduced stock footage of just things blowing up. Yeah. So they could help add to their value. Mm-hmm. And then there were other times, which I didn't realize until now, when I was an adult.
Right.
Where it was like, they had to use cross-editing to hide the fact that certain monsters they were fighting didn't even appear in the same show.
Wait, what?
They were in.
Wait, hold on.
So, for an example, I'll name an example. I'll name a monster. I don't know if this is the exact monster, but I'm just going to name one that I remember. Eye Guy.
Okay.
The guy covered in eyes.
Okay.
Say they were fighting him.
Uh-huh.
Well, in any time the Zords didn't actually physically appear on screen together, chances are it wasn't from the same show. So it was all, shoot, caught, go to the other Zord. It takes damage. Zord swings back. The monster takes damage. But they're never actually on screen together. It's because it's edited together like that.
Like I said, sheer genius.
Yeah.
The fact that they were able to edit together a fight scene, two characters were not even in the same original scene, that's pretty good. And to make it believable.
Mm-hmm. So, it's one of those things where people who were eagle-eyed about it, like, that's kind of cheesy. That's, cross-editing. But as a kids, we're like, it's a fight.
Yeah.
Stuff's happening. We don't care.
Yeah, and we're not analyzing it. We didn't know any better either. So
right. So that's how they did it, really. And they strung together all that footage. And basically, any context of the original show, whatever order it was supposed to be in, that was thrown out the window. So they just did whatever they could to make it coherent in the American version.
Right.
And so the American version, they had costumes and they had props, but it was one of those things where none of the props and costumes were original. They had to make their own as best they could based on the footage.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those things where I finally have the answer as to why in some scenes the Green Ranger's shield is puffy, and in some cases it's not puffy. It's because anything that was puffy is the American version.
Ah.
Because they didn't have the foam that the other was made out of.
Okay. That makes... Oh, so it was made out of foam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Whereas the shiny one is polyester, as I found out.
That makes sense. Because that would certainly be an easier way to make that shield, would just make it out of foam or fabric and use some sort of stuffing and then kind of sew on the designs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if all you have to go off is footage and you don't have any kind of...
And considering the fact that they based it just on footage, they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Because I think because I know like for the first season, definitely, the Americanized version, they didn't really show up in their costumes at all.
Oh, okay.
Like anytime they were actually in their Ranger gear, it was the action scene, which was all Japanese.
Right.
I think it was like in the second season where they finally had the scenes where they're in full costume and they have the helmets off, they're talking to Zord on.
Right.
So that way it's like, hey, they're in costume.
Yeah.
And hey, they can take off their helmets.
Yeah.
Which I think was like, oh, they can do it. So that's one of the things I learned when doing research for the show is, oh, that's strange.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, but like I said, it worked.
So before we talk any more about the storyline, I think we should introduce some of the characters.
We should.
And I have pretty much all the people who were Rangers in the Mighty Morphin series.
Yeah.
2 side characters that we liked, and then 2 villains.
Yeah.
So the first guy, Jason.
Yep.
The Red Ranger. The original Red Ranger, I should say, was played by Austin St. John.
I like that character. He had the strength factor. He was certainly the bigger of the guys.
He was the no-nonsense, hey, this is how we do it, and let's go kind of thing, and I'm going to punch you in the mouth if you mess with us guy.
But he was a nice guy.
But he was a nice guy. He's in real life a legit martial artist.
From what I understand, actually, all of them had to audition by showing off martial arts skills.
Martial arts and or gymnastics ability.
Okay.
So I think the next 3, I should say.
Okay.
I don't think are martial artists.
Okay.
And every single person, I kind of got just a little glimpse of what they're still doing now.
Okay.
Like, as Power Rangers still so popular, they had like a Morphin Con.
Okay, cool.
And I think most of the cast had shown up for it.
Nice.
So I know that Austin went to it, but he's also currently a firefighter. So I don't think he's acting anymore.
Wow. The Red Ranger became a firefighter.
He's written a martial arts book, and he's still heavily involved in martial arts.
That's pretty cool. You know what? Go Power Rangers.
Yeah.
He's out there risking. He's out there. Holy crap, dude. You make a show where you're a guy dressed in red going out saving lives. Now in real life, you're a guy dressed in red. Or at least going out in red chalk, which is almost like the red Zord.
Going out and saving lives. So yeah. Then you have Zach. Yep. The original Black Ranger, which is a little controversial because it's like, why you got to put the black guy in the black suit?
Ranger. Yeah.
Which is why when they got the new Black Ranger, it was not a black guy.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they probably didn't do it intentionally.
I don't think so.
But it was probably somebody pointed out to him after the fact, and like, oh, yeah, we didn't mean to do that. That probably looks a little bad. Let's fix that next time around.
Right. His real name is Walter Emmanuel Jones.
He was pretty cool, though. I remember that character being a little bit more on the lighter side. As far as, he was the more comedic one, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And he had the more unorthodox style because he kind of combined dancing and fighting.
Yeah.
And in reality, he is still a really good dancer. That's how he kind of got in. So he's more on the...
Yeah.
Not so much martial arts, but more gymnastic-y.
I could see that.
Because he has more of that breakdance type thing going.
Well, and I know, especially in the 90s, breakdancing was still, especially the early 90s like this, still pretty popular, so...
I mean, it's still popular now. It's like, you still got guys doing the head spin.
Yeah, but that's when it was really breaking out, and, all over the place. So I'm sure that he was able to do that really well, so they tried to work that into his character as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. He's still active in the dance scene. He's still on the acting scene.
Okay. At the same time, or...
I think so.
Like, is he on Broadway or anything like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I know he's still active.
Because I know a lot of actors, even well-known film actors, like, for instance, Hugh Jackman was on Broadway not too long ago.
Well, he's not doing that. So. I don't think anyone on this list is doing Broadway.
Okay.
I didn't look up the newer Rangers on this. I just looked at the originals.
Right.
Because those are the ones I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
No offense to the newer ones. Well, I say newer, but none of these guys are in the show anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so Billy.
Yeah.
The Blue Ranger. He was played by David Yost. He was a gymnast.
Yep. I kind of gather that just based upon his mannerisms, I guess, more so. You could definitely tell that Jason, as far as the character, was more of a fighter, because if Austin was a martial artist, he'd carry himself certain ways and that sort of thing. Billy, I always kind of felt like they were trying to have him be kind of the stock nerd, but he was never really nerdy. But he was the smarter person, smarter guy.
And he's also still an active actor.
Okay. Has he done anything that we're aware of?
Most of these people haven't.
Okay.
I think most of them are in smaller roles.
Okay. But still active in the acting community.
Yeah, still active.
Okay.
The only one that I think has been really, in things that I may have heard of is the Pink Ranger.
Okay.
Who we're going to get to.
Yeah.
Then we have Trainee, the Yellow Ranger. Another misstep that they... Why do you put the person of Asian descent in the Yellow Ranger costume? That's a little racist, don't you think, fellas?
To me, it never made...
I know.
I never made the connection, because growing up, yellow people were Lego people.
The thing is, growing up, I never made a connection either, but because I wasn't raised racist.
Well, I mean, yeah, me too, but I mean, to me, yellow people were Lego people.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I didn't realize that was a bad thing until a little later on. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
Do not make this comment ever.
Yeah.
She was played by, hope I pronounced her name correctly. Thuy Trang.
Okay.
Unfortunately, she has passed away.
Oh. How?
Car accident.
That sucks.
It does.
Well.
And also, I think not too long after she was off the show.
Oh, wow. That's really bad.
So she, unfortunately, did not get a chance to really show off what else she could do, because I think she was talented. I remember that.
Yeah, I do. Wow, that's... Wow, that really puts a...
I know, it's a definite downer.
Damper on...
But it's one of those things where, it's got to be said.
Yeah.
And so hats off to you. I hope, again, Thuy. Hats off to you, Thuy. You made a good...
You made a good impression on us. Our condolences to your family.
I mean, this is years after the fact, but still.
Well, like you said...
You were part of my childhood, so therefore...
And plus, I mean, and that was when it's a shame when you have a young person like that pass so soon, because she clearly had a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. A decent actress. She had the martial arts and the gymnastics part of it as well. So clearly a good combination of things. She could have been in the Matrix for all we know.
Yeah,
that's a shame,
So then we have Kimberly, the Pink Ranger,
played by Amy Jo Johnson.
Yes.
You know how I remember that name?
It's fun to say. For one. Two, she's hot.
No, I actually had a girl in my 8th grade class named Amy Johnson. She was very pretty.
Oh, okay.
And she liked the Pink Ranger, so it made it even more of a better connection.
It's true. She's been in the most stuff, I think, film and TV-wise, out of the bunch.
I remember seeing her on something not too long ago, but I can't remember what it was. Do you have any idea? So what's she been involved with?
It's one of those things where I don't remember.
Well, I wasn't sure if you'd read anything that stuck out in your mind.
It's one of those things where I kind of remembered / recognized a name of something, but it's one of those things where I know I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of those things where, okay, I know she's definitely still active and everything.
Okay.
So then you come to probably a bit major fan favorite for Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy!
The original Green Ranger and White Ranger, then he went on to be several color Rangers.
Wait, huh?
Well, because he was in the show so long, and every time they had to switch different costumes, he didn't always get green or white. I think at one point he was a Red Ranger.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I kind of stopped watching after he was a White Ranger.
Well, so did I. I'm just saying. I'm just saying because he was in it so long, he couldn't stick to just the two colors.
Did he ever have to play a girl at any point?
No.
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking they could have done an episode just to be fun with it. Be like, guess what, Tommy? Or guess what, Jason? You've been playing this role so long. Guess what? You get to play a girl in this episode.
Well, he did have to fight himself in one episode.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool. Wait, how?
Well, in one episode, I don't forget exactly how they did it, but he was the White Ranger at the time, and Rita somehow made a clone of him or something, and remade the Green Ranger. So you had the White Ranger versus the Green Ranger. So you
not playing air hockey.
But not playing air hockey. So he got to revise his role as the evil Green Ranger.
Oh, nice. That must have been fun for him.
And then, through a lot of camera trickery.
Yeah.
Because like all the live action stuff, this was like when they were Americanized, so they actually had the puffy shield, I remember. But like the fact that they had to have him out of the costume first.
Yeah.
Because they actually had interactions. So it was one of those things where we had to do both parts.
Yeah. Because
there was no body. I'm sure like when it was actually in the suits, body double.
Yeah.
So it's just another guy fighting. But otherwise it was him double acting.
Well, that's pretty impressive then.
Anyway, his full name is Jason David Frank. And he is also a legitimate martial artist.
Yeah.
Where he holds...
He's pretty hardcore from what I understand.
He holds several... I forget all which... He has more than one style, and he's a black belt in at least 2 of them.
Okay.
So he's a dude you don't want to mess with, despite the fact that, he was in Power Rangers, that kid show. I bet I can mess... Oh, no. My teeth are now in my hand.
No, in fact... There's one guy who, when he puts that costume on, you're even more afraid of him.
I know, it's like... I mean, granted, it's silly looking, but... All right, I know you could beat me up, so therefore...
Well, they're about to reboot the Bratman franchise. Maybe get him to play Bruce.
I don't know. I mean, most of these actors are now in their early 40s.
That's okay.
So I don't know. I mean...
What's his name? Pierce Brosnan was 50 when he made Die Another Day.
Good point.
So...
And most of, as far as Tommy goes, and I think Jason as well, they're both still in good shape.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. So anyway, going down the list. Eventually, 3 of the Rangers, all 4 of the Rangers really, were replaced.
Yeah.
3 of which ended up being in the movie, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, because, if a show is successful, kind of like, I don't know, Ninja Turtles, and your merchandise sells really well because you're like, hey, we've got them hooked. You're like, we should make a movie.
And we'll talk about merchandise, because Power Ranger merchandise was a definite big thing.
Yeah.
So you had Rocky, who was the new Red Ranger.
Right. I do remember that. I do remember them kind of bringing on a newer Red Ranger.
He was played by Steve Cardenas.
Okay.
So I think that was their first Hispanic-American Ranger. Then you have Adam.
Okay.
He was the new Black Ranger.
Yeah, Adam I remember.
He was Johnny Young Bosch, I believe you pronounced his name.
Yeah, Bosch or Bosch.
Bosch or Bosch. You have...
That's kind of fun to say, Bosch or Bosch.
Bosch or Boscher. That DR, you can become Canadian. Bosch or Boscher, eh?
What's a shame they never had a Canadian on there.
They might have.
A Canadian Power Ranger, eh?
Oh, we're just going to go beat up Rita there, eh? With my Money Morphin hockey stick.
Oh, that would be awesome. A Power Ranger, you get the guy with the sword, the guy with the gun, the guy with the crossbow, and the guy with the hockey stick.
Yep. Instead of a power going, he has Tim Horton donuts. With a hockey puck.
That would be awesome.
I'm sorry, Canada. I'm being really stereotypical, but
we don't care. That'd be awesome.
He would be the Red and White Ranger.
His face mask,
a maple leaf.
Yeah.
You know what would be even worse? He might be like the worst ranger. Who's like, Mastodon, Pterodactyl, beaver, eh?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh, you need to do that. You need to make the Canadian Power Ranger costume.
Oh yes. Actually, you got me thinking Canadian, American, and Mexican Power Rangers.
Oh, let's not go there. Let's not make the Super Friends of Power Rangers.
It'd be hilarious, though.
It would be. What a Dragon Con ensemble that would be.
That would be awesome.
You know it would. No, I'm taking it.
Almost as awesome as the Disco Justice League.
Oh,
I don't know, a Canadian Power Ranger, that'd be pretty awesome.
oh, man. Can you imagine what his Zord would look like? A big robotic beaver. Instead of a hockey stick, it carries a big chunk of wood.
I don't know, I like the beaver carrying a hockey stick.
Yeah. And it fires power pucks.
Out of his paw?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh, man.
I think I'm crying.
Oh, man.
Wait, okay.
We were on the topic of Power Rangers, and we
Here's it, make it better, okay? Yeah. So in the scene where you have the beaver power sword, you have the beaver sword with the hockey stick, he's fighting the tree monster. The maple tree monster.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I do remember they had like a pumpkin monster at one point. So
yeah.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility. They even had a Venus flytrap monster.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, so it's not beyond the realm of... Whew. Anyway.
There we go. Canadian Power Ranger, tree monster for Dragon Con.
And a beaver Zord.
And a beaver Zord.
That's fun to say.
That would be hilarious. You know, Steven might like that better than Captain Canada.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Okay, who are we on?
The new, I don't even know. Oh, okay. Aisha is the new Yellow Ranger.
Yeah.
And her real name was Karen Ashley.
Okay.
Then you have Catherine Cat.
Okay.
Was her nickname. She was the new Pink Ranger. And she was played by Catherine, not a long stretch there, Sutherland.
Yeah, Catherine was played by Catherine.
Yeah.
That was convenient. Although, unfortunately, by this point, we're like, wait, that's not the Pink Ranger. She's not as hot.
But she has an Australian accent, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that was kind of... It had a, you know what's weird? When women start to talk with an Australian accent, it's kind of got a sexiness to it.
Yes, I agree. You're like, you're not as... She was cute, but you're not as cute as the original.
Yeah.
But you have the cool accent, so you make up for it.
Yeah.
But I think around this time is kind of when I stopped watching.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't remember her as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember Aisha as far as...
I mean, she was in the movie too.
Right. But as far as Kat, you know, the other Pink Ranger...
For me, it's always going to be Kimberly.
Yeah. Kimberly was the Pink Ranger, Kimberly is the Pink Ranger. No matter how many come after her, Kimberly is the Pink Ranger.
Yes. And then you have two guys who aren't Power Rangers.
Bulk
but
and Skull.
But we're in the show, I think, for most of its run.
Yeah.
So Bulk was played by Paul Schreiber.
Schreier.
Or Schreier.
Yeah.
So Schreiber.
Let's leave Schreiber.
Yeah. And then you have Skull, played by Jason Narvey.
Narvey!
Narvey, dude. And they were really, really funny.
They were.
Throughout. They were the comedic relief, and they did a good job.
Yeah. They were, and you know, it's one of those things. We didn't realize at the time that they were supposed to be comedic relief. We just knew they were kind of funny, and were kind of... It's weird that they were supposed to be the bullies, but yet somehow were funny.
Yes.
You don't see that too often.
And I have two of the main villains.
Ah, yes.
That I have portrayed. We're going to talk about some of the other villains, at least by name.
What was Rita's last name?
Rita Repulsa.
Oh, Repulsa. Okay. For some reason, I wanted to say Rita Rapunzel.
No. Repulsa.
Repulsa. Because she's repulsive.
And so she was originally portrayed by Soga, S-O-G-A.
Okay. Soga.
Machiko in Season 1. And Carla Perez afterwards.
Okay.
And she was voiced, I should say dubbed over, I think probably for Season 1.
Yeah.
By Barbara Goodson.
Okay. Never really... It was one of those characters where, like, It's her again.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember what she used to say to get the monsters to...
Make my monster grow!
Magic wand!
Yeah.
She'd throw it, hurl it to earth.
Yeah. But it was one of those things like, I don't know. After having been exposed to such worthwhile and complex character villains from Batman the Animated Series, it's kind of like, really? I just thought she was kind of dumb.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where she was one-dimensional because the show wasn't about her.
Yeah.
Plus, again, when most of your footage is stock and dub,
Yeah.
and you have to work with that within those confines, because that's all her and most of the Japanese monsters, came from the original show. You have to work within the confines, so they couldn't really...
Well, she came from the original show?
Well, that's why I think in later seasons, I think this is when Perez was on there.
Okay.
That was when she had live action interactions. But for the most part, I think for all season 1, that was all just from the Japanese show.
Oh, okay.
At some form or another, or at least one of them. Because I think by the time we got Power Rangers, the Sentai show, I think it wasn't done, but certainly had multiple seasons. So that's how they were able to cut and copy and edit and mesh all these shows together to make our show.
Right.
So whatever context we got, who knows what it was originally.
Yeah.
So that's probably why her segments were short to the point, maybe some comedic moments, but beyond that, that's why you probably didn't...
Well, that makes sense.
That's why you really can't make her complex, is because they have to work within what they have.
Yeah.
I know they did more with her when they got to later seasons, when they... after they introduced the next guy we'll talk about, which is Lord Zed.
Okay.
Who looked really creepy.
He was at least a visually interesting villain.
Yeah.
He looked like, muscle toned. Like if you peeled somebody's skin off.
And you saw his brain on top of his head.
Yeah.
Which seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, it does,
It's like you might want a helmet or something,
And
dude.
for some reason he never wore pants.
Well, I don't know what to say.
I guess if you're nothing but flesh and no skin, I guess you don't really need to wear pants. I don't know.
Japanese culture. I'm going to write it off as that.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, why else would someone...
Plus, he does have at least a really cool villain named Lord Zed.
Yeah.
You're not going to mess with a guy named Lord Zed.
He was portrayed by Ed Neal,
Okay.
although he was uncredited in this role. I have no idea why.
Oh, okay.
And voiced by Robert Axelrod, which is an awesome name.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like, Axelrod!
That's a metal name, dude.
I know! It's like, holy crap, your voice is done by a guy with a hard-edge sounding last name,
And hey, you had a hard-edged sounding voice.
yeah! And you looked kind of hard-edged too, all that muscle tone and the metal work with the...
Well, at least your character did.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
So I think I know in later parts of the season, she and Lord Zed became a couple.
Yeah, I do actually remember that.
And I think
That was kind of weird.
It was. And so I think those segments, I'm guessing, were filmed here.
Okay.
So I know the longer they had to do these characters, they had to eventually film live action here.
Yeah.
So that's the main cast that we're going to really talk about.
Yeah.
And as for the overall story, I mean, each episode...
It was pretty much the same thing for the most part.
I mean...
It was, this episode would start off where the kids were at school going about their business, and then Rita would send they'd be in a park or something, and, the putties are hidden. Then they'd have to do some martial arts, beat the putties, which were actually harder to defeat when it was Rita's putties.
Yeah.
And then when Zed took over, he decided to put a giant Z on their chest, so that when they hit the Z, the putties go away.
And they exploded.
Yeah. Now, let's back up. They were called putties because they made the little guys out of putty, and then she put them in this magic machine and they become life-size and animated.
Well, do you remember some of her little henchmen that were around? Not the monsters they fought, but the henchmen that were the hangers on.
Yeah. Squat.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes. Goldar, he was a constant foe.
Yeah. What was the other guy?
Which I think he was supposed to be like
What was the other guy?
Babu.
Babu. Okay, that's good. Because I was going to say Boba. But
And then he had Finster, the guy who actually crafted the monsters.
Yeah, okay. So Babu, Squat, and Goldar were the main three that I remember, because they would actually come down and occasionally interact with the Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Goldar was the one who would fight the most.
Yeah.
And I think he was supposed to be a griffin, something along those
He
lines.
looked more like a sphinx.
Maybe a Sphinx. Although they fought a Sphinx at one point.
I mean, he kind of looked like a Sphinx crossed with a griffin.
I know he had like a lion face, but at some point sometimes he had wings.
Yeah, he had the wings.
He had wings. So, I don't know. I'm thinking closer to, I guess, Griffin, Sphinx, something.
Yeah.
I don't know what Squat and Babu were supposed to be.
They're just supposed to be Squat and Babu.
I guess.
Squat looks like a little squatty guy.
Hence the name.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever actually fought the Power Rangers. They were most like in the corner.
Hiding behind a rock.
Yeah.
They were the Jay and Silent Bob of Power Rangers.
Except they both spoke.
Well, yeah, but...
But you had the visual dynamic, one was tall and skinny, the other was kind of shorter and fatter.
Yeah.
But the way the show, I guess, kind of worked
So usually after the Power Rangers defeated the Putties, Rita would send, or she'd take something from Earth and create a monster.
Yes.
Sometimes she would make the monster and then send it. Other times she would use something that was already there, like a Venus flytrap or a fish, and create a monster from that. And the monster would be about normal human size. Power Rangers would have to put on their costumes, fight the monster. Make my monster grow! So the monster would become really big, and Power Rangers have to use their Zords, and fight broke out. That was pretty clearly men in costumes, but we didn't care.
We didn't care.
It was cool to watch. And so they'd fight,
and they'd fall on cardboard buildings.
Yeah.
And
rocks.
And even as, 11, 12-year-olds, you're like, that's cardboard, but we don't care, it's blowing up.
Yeah. Like, that's cardboard and foam. We don't care. Stop blowing up, and robots are fighting monsters.
Yes. And swords falling from the sky.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, and how do they get it back up there?
I don't care. I'll keep watching. And the Power Rangers would defeat the monster. Yay! And everybody's laughing and clapping at the end of the day.
I mean, that sums up.
And that was every episode. For the most part.
For the most part. I mean, I think the way they tried to weave it in was...
I was going to say, the interesting thing is that while you had that pretty much basic plotline in every episode, you did have some threads that would tie each episode of itself. And so you did have things like, Tommy coming in as the Green Ranger. He starts off bad, but he becomes good. Later on becomes the White Ranger. You have some storylines that carry over, which was done actually really well.
And within each individual episode, they tried to have some sort of topic.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just the stock like, hey, we're in school. Oh, trouble. It was more like, hey, here's the issue of the day that we can deal with.
Yeah.
Like, I know like in some heroes like, teamwork, cooperation, playing fair, that sort of thing, where they were aware that their audience was younger.
Yeah.
So like, okay, we can't just have just violence in this.
Yeah.
We got to balance it out with, well, here's our moral lesson of the day.
Yeah.
And that's how they would tie the show in.
Yep.
And they didn't always kill the monster via robot. Sometimes they would kill it with their weapons. Like when they made the power blaster thingy.
Oh yeah.
Where they had the battle axe.
Yeah, when
the power axe.
When they put all the weapons together.
Yeah, it was power axe, power bow, power daggers, power lance, power sword.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the 5. I was doubting myself for a minute.
You remember it better than I do. I'm like, power weapon, power sword, power bow, power lance, power side?
I might have the order mixed up, but
that's okay.
I remember it was like it had to start with the axe because that was like the main gun, and then the bow because they had to attach the other two. I'm probably mixing up the daggers and the lance.
Yeah.
I know the sword was last.
Yeah. Because that came on top.
Yes. So I left out the one weapon that didn't get added onto that, which was the dragon dagger, which I always thought was awesome.
Because that's so awesome by itself.
Yeah.
And it's Green Rangers. No, he doesn't give his weapon up to anybody.
No.
He's like, this is mine. You keep... No, you're not having this.
Well, he had to give it up once.
Oh, he did?
When he lost his powers.
Oh, yeah.
And he handed over his...
Do, 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 do.
Yeah. Or... Da, 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 da.
The fact that it was a dagger and a flute was awesome.
It was. So, Matt, you know why they had to get rid of the Green Ranger?
I do, actually.
Enlighten me.
Because in the original Japanese show, he died.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, one of those burning questions as a kid, like, why did they get rid of the Green Ranger? The Green Ranger was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the White Ranger's okay, but the Green Ranger was cool. He was green.
Actually...
And he had a cool dagger.
Yeah, although I have to admit, while I do like the Dragon Sword better, I like the costume of the White Ranger, and I like the saber. better than the Dragon Bag.
That's fine.
So.
To each his own. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, like, Dragon Zord was my all-time favorite Zord.
Oh, yeah. It's mine, too. It's just so awesome, you know?
I mean, it shoots missiles out of its fingers.
Yeah! That's awesome! And his tail becomes a drill!
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
And it roared like Godzilla.
Yeah! And it came out of the water like Godzilla, too! Wait a minute!
Where do you think they were pulling that from, I wonder?
Yeah. Like Godzilla?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares? It was still awesome. You know, and the fact that we knew about Godzilla's kids didn't matter. It was like, it's clearly a Godzilla thing, but it's okay. We like that.
Well, the fact is, we got to see something Godzilla-like, which we already thought was cool, on a show where we had fighting and kung fu and Power Rangers.
Yeah.
This is like combining something we already like with something we already like. How are we not going to like this?
I know.
So
yeah, it was one of those...
So how did they get rid of the Green Ranger in the American show?
Well, they initially got rid of him. I think they had to do it in a two-step phase to buy themselves time because they still had footage.
Okay.
But like, if we use it all up now, we're gonna do something stupid, and because we still have plenty to go with this character. So they initially was like, okay, in the context of the storyline, because the Green Ranger power came from Rita initially. Yeah. She was like, okay, well, I have this candle that he touched when he was evil, and I had him win when I was giving him this new power. Yeah. This will be my way of taking away his power and giving it back to me. Okay. And so throughout that episode, it was like a 2-part episode, I think. Mm-hmm. And the more the candle burned, the more his power was taken away. Okay. And so they tried to stop it, but they failed. It was one of the few times where they actually were defeated, which was a big standout. Yeah. It was like they always won. This was the one time they didn't. Yeah. And so the only way to save the power from getting to Rita was if he relinquished his coin to another Ranger. And he gave it to the Red Ranger. Okay. So for a while, the Red Ranger had both his sword and the dagger, so he could call upon the Dragon Zord, and every now and then he could put on the shield. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I also remember in the context of the show, the Green Ranger could actually give someone else his shield if he wanted to. I do remember very clearly, and in looking at some of the older clips on YouTube, I saw that clip where he gave it to Zach for a little while. Okay. So, yeah, I actually now that you mention it, I do remember seeing something where the other Power Rangers had a shield. I'm like, why is that? Because it was completely out of context. Yeah. Well, and I do know the shield also, like, I don't remember how often they did it. Mm-hmm. Where if he's playing the flute and not summoning the Dragon Zord, it can deflect attacks. Oh, nice. So I do remember, I know for a fact he did it when he was evil once. So he was playing the flute, and I think the Red Ranger was shooting his laser at it, and it was deflecting and hitting himself. Oh, nice. Very nice. So then that's how they got rid of him the first time. Mm-hmm. And then when they brought him back, they was like, okay, well, you have your powers back, because in the context of the show, all the parents of the kids at school got abducted, and Rita's like, I have them hostage. Or maybe Lord Zed. I don't remember which one at this point. I think it was Rita. Okay. I have them hostage. If you want them back, if you want your parents back, give us your power coins. And they're like, okay, well, here's our coins. And like, ha, we fooled you because we're evil. I'm like, no! And so they're like, we have no power coins. And then Jason's like... That just shows you right there how fake this show was. Because if you tell a bunch of teenagers, if you want your parents back, they would have been like, you keep them, I don't want them. I got the house to myself, and they're not telling me what to do, so ha! They would have been like, Rita would be like, wait, oh, that backfired on me, crap! But it's not just your parents, it's everyone's parents. Yeah. And all your teachers, and made her baby whole of Angel Grove. So there. And they're like, fine. Although, just don't make us clean our rooms. If this was today, it would have been like, I'm taking all your Xboxes and iPods. Oh, no! Wait, Mom? And so that was also, I think, a 2-part episode. And so at the end of that one episode, they gave up all their coins, and they're like, we're screwed. What do we do? Yeah. Like, we have no more power coins. And then Jason's like, we have one. And he's got the green one. And you're like, oh, yeah. Well, that's how I was. Okay. Well, the thing is, I don't remember this much. So, thing is, like I said, because I was so far into Batman at this point, I remember seeing the show and liking it, but there's not an episode that stands out to me. And there's not even a storyline that stands out to me. These two, like the Green Ranger when he was evil stands out to me because it was the first time they had a like multi-part. I think it was like a week-long episode, like saga, where it played out.
Yeah.
So you were like I needed to see anticipation, like, wow, how's this gonna go?
Yeah.
Because like, hey, they've got Rangers, but then they've got an evil one. That's always a neat dynamic when you have your inverse, like your evil side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is he evil, but he's also like when he was portrayed in the show, like able to beat all the Rangers combined for the most part. Where he was like, wow, this guy's really tough, and he's beating them up.
Well, in real life, he'd probably be able to do that.
He probably could. I mean,
Jason Frank could probably kick the butts out of all the other people, of all the other five.
Yeah,
in real life.
I mean, Austin would probably give Jason a run for his money, but I don't know. To be honest, who knows would actually win that fight?
It'd be fun to see.
It would be.
Like, okay, Jason versus you five. You'd be like, I got this. Wait, I'm not gonna hit Kimberly.
Yeah, or like, can you just go away? All right. Anyway, so
she'd be the cheerleader.
So, in the context of the show, again, going back, they can only give him his powers temporarily.
Okay.
But he's able to go and get the power coins back by defeating a whole bunch of putties by himself and Goldar.
Yeah.
And so, for a while, like during when Lord Zed first appeared, and throughout a good portion of that run, like he was still the Green Ranger, but like throughout the whole run of the show, like they kept saying, "Oh, your powers are temporary. Your powers are temporary. It's gonna run out. It's gonna run out."
Right.
So they had to hammer in the fact that, hey, don't get used to Green Ranger. He's still here, but notice how his Dragon Zord doesn't combine with this stuff.
Yeah.
He's not gonna stick around, folks. Just keep that in mind, because like when they switched over, which I always thought sucked, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I always liked the Megazord. The original Zords to me were like those are the good ones.
Yeah.
I barely remember what the second set was. I remember the Red Dragon.
Let's see. You had the Red Dragon. You had black one was a frog. The blue one.
No,
was
you're skipping. You're skipping to the movie. That's not it.
Oh, it's not.
No, that's actually the third generation. I remember that because of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember the second set, to be honest with you, because that was more of a.
Were they still dinosaurs?
I should have looked this up. The thing is, I kind of didn't because like it hadn't been the fact that it was okay, but it wasn't nearly as good.
Yeah.
And I mean, like the first one looked cool because it looked like a kind of like a Viking warrior because he had like the horns.
Yeah.
The second one was more of a samurai looking guy,
which I was okay with.
It was okay with, but it was like to me it just wasn't as good. Plus, to me it was also like okay.
Oh no, that's right. The black one was a gorilla.
But I still think that's from the movie.
Okay, you could be right, but
because they got the Ninja Zords, which is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Because I remember that it went from this succession. It was the two that I remember the most, which was the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger / White Ranger ones, which was Red Ranger always had like his standalone because in the first season when he had the Tyrannosaurus, that was the only Zord that could kill a monster by itself. Okay. Like, it had its own finishing move, as we'll call it.
Okay.
Where it did like a fire thing where it breathed on the ground and the monsters like would dissolve. So they had more than one way of destroying a monster. So they had like the weapons, they had the power sword, and then the Red Tyrannosaurus could destroy it. Right. In the second series, they had the Red Dragon, which was the base of the other Zords, where it transformed into like a humanoid. Right. And he had like this twirling bow staff. Yeah. And that could also destroy a monster by itself or become the Megazord again. Right. But then so then you have whatever the red thing was for the third. That one I don't remember as well, to be honest with you.
No. Me either.
I remember the white one, which was a falcon. Yeah. It went from Dragon Zord, Tiger to Falcon. Okay. And the falcon would be the wings for the third Zord.
Yeah. Ooh, man.
I was like, ooh, I'm not remembering some of this. Like, I remember there was the wolf for the third one. Yeah. There was a bear, which I think was...
That's the red. That was the red, I think.
No, that was yellow.
You sure?
I think so.
Okay, because I know wolf was blue.
Wolf was definitely
Frog
blue.
was black.
Frog was black.
What was pink?
It's like, man. It's like one of those things like, that was in the movie, which we got to talk about.
Yeah. Which was after the second cast came on board.
Yes, it was when the second cast came on board.
Because the movie came out in what?
The movie came out in 95. Okay. So it was at the tail end of the original run.
Which makes sense. And they were using the same actors. And From what I remember,
Let's talk about the movie. Let's just dive right into that.
that's kind of what I was doing.
Okay.
I have never actually seen this movie in its entirety.
Really?
Yeah.
How sad.
Really?
I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually serious.
Okay. I've seen very little of it.
Well,
because I remember seeing the previews for it and be like, oh, that's awesome, but we just, honestly, that was 95. Yeah, that was the year Batman Forever.
okay.
So Power Rangers went out the window as soon as Batman Forever came out. Because, new Batman movie, and it's awesome. And, look, and then I started getting into Ace Ventura and stuff, so Power Rangers fell by the wayside. But I do remember, with the trailer at least, you had the villain was Ivan Ooze,
Yes.
played by Paul...
Well, this is where I didn't do any research, so...
No, I didn't do any research either. I'm just trying to think. He was actually a fairly well-known actor.
Okay.
Paul Newman.
Okay.
And it was completely all shot. None of it was taken from the original show.
It was all American.
And I remember when they had images of the Zords, I'm like, whoa, those are really cool looking. Looking back, it's like, holy crap, that's horrible CGI.
Yeah. I was going to say,
let's
skip into the end, but that was when CGI was in its infancy, and you can tell.
Yes.
I mean, at the time, you're like, wow, it's cartoony, but it's kind of neat.
Well, the thing is, at the time, it actually looked...
It looked okay.
It looked fine for what it was. But even, let's say, this was 95.
Even at the time, you're like, it's not as it's one of those things like, man...
it's not as realistic, but...
It's one of those things I kind of wish it would be guys in costumes.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't fit the visual of the movie, which was everything else looked pretty good.
Yeah.
We're skipping around, but
the costumes had more of an armored feel. To
give the movie credit, they did a good job on the costumes and the overall effects of the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just the CGI at the end was disappointing.
Well, it was okay at the time. Now it's like, whoa, that's bad.
Yeah. Like laughably bad.
Yeah. So
the plot...
Give me a rundown of the movie, because I've never seen it. Really.
All right, so Rita and Lord Zed, in their infinite wisdom, decide to seek out, or was it like someone they've been seeking out, but on Earth, someone uncovered this capsule, which if you know at any time someone uncovers something, that's not a good sign.
Nope.
And it looked like it had been sealed away, and then Rita and Lord Zed show up, and they have Goldar with them, who never ever fights anybody in this movie, which I thought was disappointing, and a pig.
Excuse me?
Yeah. And it's for like
a pig, like a farm pig?
No, he's like, squat and baboon combined kind of pig. Like one of those kind of guys, but he's a pig.
Okay, so he's a henchman who's a pig.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant like a little pet pig.
No, although that would have been better than what we got. Because even as however old I was in 95, you're like, wait a minute. I don't think they ever said his name in the movie, one. He's never ever been seen in the show prior to or since, so that's number 2.
Yeah.
And he didn't really serve a major purpose in this movie other than kind of being there and cracking a joke now and then. So 3. So okay, write him off completely. I still to this day I have no idea what his name is supposed to be.
Other than pig.
Other than that guy who happens to be a pig.
Well, that works, I suppose.
So it makes you wonder, okay, if you're basing this off the very, very popular show that's on right now, and still on right now, could you include a character that we know? You got Goldar, which is great. Who's this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, you got a new villain here, so that's fine. We're all we're okay with that.
But you're also using Rita and Zed, who are known villains.
Yeah, I mean, they have a bit part at most.
But at least you're using them to introduce the new villain.
Yes. So why is this guy here who, by the way, doesn't actually do anything?
Yeah.
You have 2 characters who can do that for you.
Yeah.
It's just one less costume to make, I guess. Let's just make 1 costume instead of 2, I guess.
Yeah, who knows?
Hey, we happen to have this pig costume left over. Let's use that.
Who knows?
Who knows? So anyway, they uncover this, what looks like a giant purple egg. That's what it is.
Okay.
And it opens up, and it's this vat of what Rita looks like. I always remember, it's like, you spent 10,000 years looking for a tub of snot? And she goes,
that's pretty funny, I'll have to say.
And I also I was like, because they were supposed to be married, so they had like this constant
They
squabble.
had the banter. Yeah, okay.
Because at one point, because Rita is Like, I'll get to it in a second, because it is pretty... I do remember it's pretty funny even now.
Okay.
So they uncover Ivan Ooze.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, well, thank you for waking me up, getting me out of there. I have some unfinished business with Zordon, who's the big-headed tube.
Right.
And then the Power Rangers show up, and he's like, well, it's time for you guys to fight my minions, but while you're fighting, I'm going to go take care of your leader. And so he actually gets into the command center. That's what it was called.
Okay, yeah.
And he messes up Alpha 5, who we didn't mention yet.
Yeah.
Which was the annoying robot.
That's why we didn't mention him.
Yeah.
In fact, I spent many years in therapy trying to get rid of the unmentioned... Oh, I'm just kidding. I had to smack you for that one.
I had to. I think I was...
No, you didn't. You could have left me my sanity.
You know, if we're going to talk about Power Rangers, we bring up Alpha 5, you have to say it, at least once. But now we'll never say it again.
Yeah.
So he goes and he actually gets Zordon out of the tube, which we've then learned in the context of the movie, where I guess it's supposed to be like a thing that keeps him frozen in time or something. Or he was out of it, he starts aging.
Oh, okay.
And he's dying because he's out of it.
I do remember a couple of years ago, me and my brother were flipping through the channels. Actually, I take that back. My whole family was there. We were flipping through the channels, and we did catch somewhere in the middle of the Power Ranger movie. Like, whoa, the Power Ranger movie's on? Like, well, let's check it out. And it was, I don't remember, I had no context of what it was, but it was smack dab, and you see the command center torn apart, and Zordon's laying there, and, like, the Power Rangers come in, and they're like, Zordon, you've been hurt, that sort of thing. And we watched it for a couple of minutes, and they started fighting. They were doing all their hand movements, so like, wow, this is incredibly bad.
But it's a good kind of bad.
Yeah.
I can still tolerate that movie. It's cheesy, but it's one of those things where I can tolerate this cheesy.
But, I remember thinking, I have no idea what's going on, because we were, coming into the middle of it, just because it was on.
I know. I remember, like, the first things they fight are, like ooze-type things.
Okay. When they punch them, do their hands get stuck in them?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think so. Then they have to go to because Zordon and the command center's been all messed up, they lose their powers.
Okay.
So they have to, we have to go to this other planet to find new powers that we can harness to defeat this new evil. Okay. And so they take off this planet and they zip by the moon where the evil guys are. And Rita's saying to Ivan's like, you let them get away. Why don't you destroy them? And he goes, splat, right over her mouth. And she's like, wee. And Lord Zed has the best line, like, finally, someone shut her up.
Wow. You know what? The price of admission is just that one line. Just to see that play out, that had to have been worth the price of admission.
I know, so it's like, it's still funny.
Yeah.
What's also still funny is Ivan's like, you know what? It's time for new management, and I elect me. And like, oh, I don't think so. And he goes, too bad. And he traps him in a snow globe. And he literally has like, oh, I love snow globes, and he shakes it. And like, stop it!
So they made him like a fun villain at least.
Yes.
Okay. He had to go with that.
He had a sense of humor all throughout the whole movie.
Well, you know what? That right there makes it more enjoyable.
He was a fun villain.
Yeah.
I will admit. I mean, it was silly, but
so I guess
a good silly.
Yeah, well, I guess when you kind of think about it, it kind of played out like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it had its own kind of tone. That was a little bit, because they were able to actually take time and have a three-dimensional villain as opposed to two-dimensional, because they were creating it from scratch and actually were shooting it. So, wow, imagine that when you actually don't make a show from re-editing all this other pre-made stuff, you can do more stuff with it.
Mm-hmm. And plus they were able to weave in their seriousness too.
Yeah, obviously.
They did have some serious moments to it. I don't remember who they actually meet up on the other planet. They meet up with this warrior girl.
Okay. I do remember seeing, I think, images or part of the trailer when they were like ninja type garb.
They give
Which I thought was pretty cool.
I think it's called Ninjetti.
Okay.
I believe that's what it's called.
Ninjetti? That sounds like a...
Ninjetti.
Sounds like a sports car.
It might be. Who knows?
Yeah, my Ninjetti's parked out back.
I remember on the planet they fought two different things. One, they fought these crow-looking dudes that Ooze sent. Okay. And I remember what was also funny was the way he created them was creepy and gross.
Okay.
Which he literally just hucked a loogie. And from that Lukey, they all formed.
Okay, then. Yeah, that's kind of weird and gross, but cool at the same time.
I mean, it fit in with the movie.
Yeah.
So it's
You know what?
Looking back, it's like, I kind of want to watch it again.
I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? I gotta find this movie.
I have it on VHS.
You do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can get it on DVD. See if if they've got like the $5 parallel at Walmart or something. If I find it, I'll pick it up.
I don't know. It's been out since 95. They probably don't have it.
Oh, they make older movies on DVD.
I'm sure. I know they do, but I don't know if they'll have it in stock.
Oh.
You may have to go to like a movie stop or something.
Or like Amazon or something.
It's like, yeah, talking about this. I know it's cheesy and lame, but like, I kind of want to watch it.
It's a good kind of cheesy. Like I said, it's got that Saturday morning cartoon feel. So
plus, to me, it's nostalgic.
Well, you get the nostalgia factors. You get the fact that you got a fun villain. Who cares? That's. I mean, I know, and it's got ninjas in it.
Yeah, I mean, I do know it's packed with one-liners, so you have to sit through that. But it's also like, okay, this was designed for little kids.
But as long as they're okay one-liners, I'm good with that. I mean, if I can enjoy a James Bond movie with a bunch of one-liners that you cringe at, I think I'm okay with that.
To be fair, that one movie I was complaining about was pretty cringeworthy.
For you.
All right, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's different points of view. I can only speak for me.
I know.
So...
They also fought rock monsters, which was actually kind of cool.
Okay.
And then they get their ninja powers, which they had Zords for.
Like, did they have to do some sort of test to retrieve the ninja powers or anything? Or?
The test was to defeat the rock monsters.
Okay. So
they were the guardians of the power.
Okay. And so I guess once they get their ninja powers and their Zords, they go back to Earth and stop ooze.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when the terrible CG happens.
Okay. That's okay. That's all right. At least it was short-lived.
And that's the main plot. There is a subplot to the movie, which I'm not going to ruin for you, because if you do watch it sometime in the future.
Yeah.
It's not a great subplot, I'll admit, but it's there.
Okay.
It's something to help tie the movie together.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be. Got a question.
Got an answer.
Have they ever made a Power Rangers video game?
Yes, they've made several.
Okay. Have you played any of them?
Yes.
And?
I used to own one for Super Nintendo, and it came out like right as the first season became popular.
Okay.
So it was before the Green Ranger.
Okay.
So there was no Green Ranger in it, which I always found disappointing.
Yeah.
And most of the monsters were all from the first season. So guys that like from the first couple episodes. And the reason why I don't have it anymore is because it was okay.
Yeah.
But ridiculously easy.
Oh, okay.
Like you could play it, you could beat it in about an hour.
Oh, wow.
And even non-video game players probably could breeze through the game.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that looked good, it played okay, it was an okay game, but it
wasn't hard enough.
It just didn't have a challenge. It was one of those things where, what can I do to waste an hour?
Yeah. What kind of style of game was it?
Side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Okay.
And the way it worked was, it kind of played in, each level was in two parts. We started off as, you can pick from the main 5 and for any stage. So that was always kind of like, there was no specific stage for every specific character. It was whichever order you want to pick them, then hey, you don't have to pick everybody.
Yeah.
So you started off as human first, you fought putties up to a point, and then, oh no, the bad guy, and then you morph, and then the rest of the stage you're as the Power Ranger.
And you never use the Zords?
You do, eventually.
Okay.
And then you fight the villain as the Ranger at the end, whatever monster it was. And then there's 5 stages of that, at least. And then there's the end of the game where you first fight, I don't remember what monster it was, but you're as the Megazord and you fight a monster.
Okay.
And then you kill that thing. And then you fight Goldar's Zord.
Okay.
Whatever it was called. And then you beat the game.
Okay. Well, it sounds like they at least kept the same premise of the show.
They kept it in the spirit of the show.
In the basic sense and that sort of thing. Well, I'm sitting here thinking the way you're describing the plot of the movie, it's like, wow, that, and some of the overall story arcs they have from the show, it's like, that would have made a really good video game.
Yeah.
When you brought that in. So, have you played any of the others? How the others were received or anything like that?
I remember 2. One I had for a little while, but also don't have anymore. It was for the Sega Game Gear.
Okay. Wow. That's going old school. I haven't heard about Game Gear in forever.
Yeah. It was actually my friend Mike's game. He had a game, and it's one of those things where he was notorious for not taking care of some of his things. So for a long while, his Game Gear was not working.
Okay.
Or just wasn't interested in it, so it was just happened to be in my possession for the longest time because, like, hey, I have a working Game Gear.
Yeah.
And I'd play it every now and then. It actually included the Green Ranger. It was actually more like a fighting game.
Okay.
But it had a storyline to it.
Okay.
But it was kind of fun. I do remember liking that one better than the Super Nintendo version.
I was going to say, the fact that, it's got the Green Ranger in it, which the other one didn't. That's about it. That's already making it better for you. And two, if it's more like a fighting game, that's going to incorporate those elements better, too.
And I remember, like, you could also, instead of just... Because the other one, like the Super Nintendo one, it was so straightforward. It was hack and slash.
Yeah.
You move forward, you can jump, and you use your weapon. That was kind of it. There was no variation.
Okay.
With this, there are actually moves you can do, where... You
could do a punch or a kick or use your weapon.
Plus, if you do different button combinations, like in a real fighting game, you do different special moves.
Oh, nice.
Like I remember, the Green Ranger had that Hadouken thing in the game.
Nice.
That's why I remember it so well.
Okay, yeah.
And like some of the other characters, like I think the Pink Ranger could use her bow.
Yeah.
And like charge it up as well.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And the third one I kind of remember was a friend's game. It was for the Sega Genesis, and that was based more on the movie. So you actually had the third generation of Zords.
Okay.
And that one kind of played also like a fighting game, but also like an open stage kind of fighting game where like if you're the Zord or the monster, you can walk around the city and destroy buildings as you're fighting.
Oh, cool. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. I remember that being kind of fun. And I'm sure they've made more, but those are the ones I've played.
Well, I'm just thinking, I've never heard of a Power Rangers video game except for maybe the first one. Obviously, when it first came out, there's Power Ranger stuff everywhere. But the simple idea of, I'd be willing to bet with the way graphics are and that sort of thing, they could pull out like an original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers video game now, and it would probably be successful.
They probably could
if they did it, as the way you're describing the third movie or third game, or even the second game.
And the thing is, like, if they did, it wouldn't be a bad move.
No, it wouldn't.
Because they're still making... was it last year? They re-released the Dragon Dagger?
Yeah.
So it's the fact that, it's still selling. And the Megazord and some of the original Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So, the nostalgia factor is still there. And the fact that there was a Morphin Con...
Yeah.
should tell you that there's still some hardcore fans of the show, at least for the nostalgia value.
Well, and I know for me... kind of going back and forward at the same time. I remember when, during the brief period of time when I was really into Power Rangers, even though I wasn't really interested a whole lot in the merchandise, I was very interested. It actually got me. It struck a creative chord with me.
Really?
Yeah. Where I actually started. I was like, I could go out and buy these toys. Or I could take my Legos and build my own Power Rangers Legos. So I actually did attempt to build the Dragon Zord out of Legos and the Megazord, and I actually had it designed where I had each individual Zord, and they, would transform and connect to each other to build the Megazord. Unfortunately, I didn't take any pictures of it, so I can't even show that. Although now, since I have so much moving parts, I'm planning on doing that again. Only better. But also, I liked the Power Rangers and their costumes and the different dinosaurs, but Jurassic Park was also out and had been out for a couple years, and I saw Jurassic Park 2. And I don't know what was with me at the time, but I was really, really, really into Velociraptors at the time. I was like, why can't they have a Power Ranger whose dinosaur is Velociraptor? I was like, screw it, I'm going to make my own. So I came up with, I think it was either brown or orange. I came up with two different ones. I think it was Brown Ranger was the Velociraptor, and the Orange Ranger was the Stegosaurus. Because I thought those would be two cool-looking dinosaurs to have as Power Rangers, and especially as Zords. I think I did some sketches, but that's as far as it got. I would actually am looking into doing a full-blown costume with the Velociraptor. And one of the things that I'm recently throwing around the idea of, I've actually done a brief sketch of the costume, is something I'd like to attempt years down the road, because this would take some time and effort, is doing kind of a pitch video of saying, okay, let's see if we can take Power Rangers but in a serious tone, where the suits actually have an alien look to them.
I mean, they might now.
And they still look very similar.
I'm sure they're similar, but I know there are variations now.
It's only in terms of the design of the faceplate and colors. They actually look worse. Like, they've actually started incorporating capes
Oh, okay.
And I mean,
I was going to say, like, I didn't think the originals were that bad looking.
No, I'm not saying the costumes were bad. I'm just saying, you know, to put it in a better context. If you look at the Christopher Reeve Superman costume,
yeah.
Well, it looks good. If you look at the Henry Cavill Superman costume, that looks like alien clothing.
Okay.
Which actually, I've also seen an image of, what's his face, Russell Crowe dressed up as Jor-El. Well, it's pretty obvious that, I mean, he's got pretty much the Superman costume on underneath his robe. It's pretty much established that Superman's costume is going to be the clothing that he would have worn on Krypton.
Okay.
So it's got that alien look to it, and I was kind of thinking, hey, it'd be cool if the Power Ranger costume did not look like a costume that was made on Earth, but had more of an alien look to it.
So kind of like if you're comparing the ones we at least see in the show versus the ones we saw in the movie. Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of, but in a different way, in the sense of it still would have the iconic look. The color scheme would be the same. The helmet would still look like the head of the dinosaur. You still have the different designs and everything, but you'd use different textures, that sort of thing. You could use different materials to make it look like it was alien, as opposed to something you could put together in a sewing machine. But I'm interested in doing kind of like a pitch trailer, kind of what they did for Mortal Kombat, if you remember that video.
I do.
And the web series that it became. I thought, well, that'd be really cool if you could do that. And I mean, with the way, you know, if you think about the way they did the Transformers in live action recently, imagine the Zords like that.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. And you know, and take off the cheesy aspects, leave the good aspects that were already there. The way the monsters could be done with CG and that sort of thing today, amazingly good. But you know, and you could have someone, you could give texture and dimension to Rita, and bring in Rita and Lord Zed and Goldar, but you know, put different nuances to the characters so they're not these cheesy characters. I think it'd be pretty interesting. And also modernize the actual teens to be teenagers of today.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would just be a really interesting idea.
I mean, this is where, like, because we don't watch the show, maybe the teenagers in the show now are teenagers of today somewhat.
No.
I mean, they might include, oh, my MP3 player got stolen at school today. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Because they probably can't say iPod.
Well...
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't watch Power Rangers anymore, so who knows?
Yeah, but even still, it's definitely... Well, I don't watch it either, but I imagine that the show has the same tone it did before.
Probably.
But...
Who knows? This is where we're shooting.
It's not... What I'm saying
that's why we're talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Well, that's why I'm saying, if you're going to do, like, use the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
But basically reboot them. Take it in a more serious direction. Use those Power Rangers. Use the Green Ranger with the Dragon's Orb. Use the Red Ranger with the Tyrannosaurus. But modify the look of it to fit more like what you have in the Transformers movie so that there's more of a realistic look to it, that sort of thing. More detail. You know, give the suits the classic look, but more alien looking. And have the teenagers act like teenagers of today. You know, where the Black Ranger might be the emo kid.
Who knows?
You know?
Although,
You know,
speaking of...
Trini and Kimberly would be Twihards. No, that would be going against what I'm thinking, but...
Yeah.
But you could update it and modernize. And I think because then if you did that, you know, it's like some of these other things that we've seen. What's a good example? Like Transformers.
Yeah.
You know, something that was, you know, designed as a show to sell toys. Well, the most recent movie made almost $1 billion. Whether people like it or not is besides the point. The fact is, it updated the characters and the storyline, and it modernized it for, you know, a new audience. And I think...
And we'll sell toys.
And you know what? I was one of those things when I saw the third movie for the first time. There's this one part where Optimus Prime, like he's actually got the trailer for his truck, and it becomes like this ring with weapons on it, and he's getting up and he walks through and grabs the weapons. Like, holy crap! That'd make a cool toy. Wait a minute. You know what? But it fit within the movie. It fit within the story. It worked perfectly.
Yeah.
It's like the fact that they're able to do that now, have great action scenes, sell toys, but at the same time make a good story. and have it work really well.
Or it's not like the one-seat Batmobile without the
Exactly.
cockpit.
Exactly.
Well, that's clearly a toy.
Yeah. Whereas the scene I'm describing with Optimus Prime, it wasn't clearly a toy, but it would make a cool toy.
But it could be.
Yeah. And do that with Power Rangers. I think that would be really great. Because there's a lot of kids. In fact, there's a ton of people that did not grow up with when we did.
Yeah.
That would love the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers if done that way.
I bet you'd have two camps. One camp would definitely want it your way.
Mm-hmm.
The other camp would be like, that's good and all, but we kind of want to see the fake monsters, like in the suits.
Okay.
Just to have
Why do you say that?
Because the fact that they're still fans of like original Godzilla movies, and those are all guys in suits.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's it's one of those things where, yes, it's a guy in a suit, but there's something good about it. There's something magical about that style of movie or that style of film or that style of show.
Okay.
So I think there is some people who would like, it's good and all, but they still kind of like the robot who's actually a guy in a costume.
I got you.
There is still that love of that style. So I think you'd have it divided.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it would be, but
because it's one of those things where I would love to see your way, but I also like to see the other way. Just a new version of that.
You know what? The nice thing is you can have both.
Yeah.
Because I know you can find it on YouTube. They might actually make them on DVD. I don't know.
Probably.
But if they do, you can always go back and watch the originals. It's like I've got the 1940s Batman serials. Not nearly as campy as the 60s show. It's actually, I was surprised how straightforward it is. But there's something to it, and I can always watch that whenever I want to go to it.
Yeah.
Or I can always watch Batman 80 or Batman 89 or Batman Forever when I want to watch those. In addition to the Dark Knight, that's the nice thing about videotape.
Yeah, it's true.
DVD. You can always go back and watch whatever you want. Even if something new comes out and you're like, yeah, that's okay, but I'd rather watch this. Okay, you can go watch that.
One thing I want to touch up on or tag up on is you brought up wanting to be the Orange Ranger. I vividly remember that during our just going outside to play, someone, probably not me or maybe it was also like, all right, well, there's the 6. Let's make our own.
Yeah.
And orange was definitely a color that was used. For the life of me, I can't remember what dinosaurs we picked. I know we picked dinosaurs. I bet you someone was a Velociraptor because, again, Jurassic Park was out.
And that was the cool one.
So I think maybe one of us was a Dilophosaurus, the ones that spit.
Okay.
And maybe there was for the life of me, I don't remember which ones it was. But I do know that we had an Orange Ranger. There may have been a different color, but we were also playing Power Rangers as kids.
I remember Velociraptor, Stegosaurus, and Ankylosaurus were always my favorite dinosaurs.
Which one's Ankylosaurus?
Ankylosaurus is the one, he's kind of like an armadillo, where he's got like the spikes armored on the back.
And the club
tail. Okay.
Yeah. I know that one.
Everyone's like, oh, Tyrannosaurus. I'm like, yeah. I like the one that's got the armor and a big club at the end. Beat the crap out of Tyrannosaurus. Because Tyrannosaurus get their little stubby arms.
I was always preferenced pterodactyl myself.
I like those two.
And to me, it's synced up because pterodactyl is sort of a long distance relative to the bat, which is also my favorite animal.
Yes.
So it's there's a theme there where it's leathery wings, leathery wings.
On Leather Wings, a great episode.
Okay. It's all right.
You knew it was coming.
I did. You already brought up Batman a couple times. It happens in every episode.
It does.
It works as we're talking about superheroes anyway.
Yeah.
Which I guess you would classify Power Rangers superheroes, technically.
Oh, that's actually... I forgot to mention that. Another thing I would like to do in my version, actually give the Power Rangers a power. I would give the Red Ranger, when he morphed into his Power Ranger, he would have super strength.
Okay.
The Pink Ranger, when she morphed into the Power Ranger, she would have the ability to fly.
Okay.
Give each one a different one. You'd have, strength, flight, speed, telekinesis for one of them, or something like that. That way, they have to work together.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
to
make it work. But at the same time, a power so that they're actually superheroes. They're superpowers. It's not just, like I said, because that was my only problem with them calling Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Okay, what are their powers? Well, they put on their costume. I'm sorry, that doesn't do it for me.
Well, they were a step up of VR Troopers, if you remember that show.
No.
Which was...
I think I remember the intro.
I think that's all anyone remembers.
I remember seeing the intro of VR Troopers, and I do remember Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad.
which was not Power Rangers.
Not Power Rangers, but it had Tim
in it.
Curry as the villain, and it had Matthew Lawrence as one of the characters.
The main hero.
Yeah.
And he was from
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
He was the older boy in Mrs. Doubtfire. He's actually done quite a bit of stuff, but
I remember he was in a sitcom around that age too.
yeah.
But I have no earthly idea
I can't
which one it
remember
was.
But yeah.
Also because I didn't watch it. Because at that point I was not watching live action much on TV, which we talked about already.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to bring up, we mentioned it briefly, merchandising. Merchandising!
Merchandising! Where the real money from the movie is made.
And damn was he right.
Yeah.
Because I think Power Rangers was the very first big fad that I can remember, at least, where you had people lining up hours before a store would open to get it, and it would be gone
Oh, wow.
within the day. Like, it wasn't really like that for Ninja Turtles, I don't remember. Like, it was a craze, definitely. But I don't remember there being that big rush to go out and get the toy for Christmas, or go out and get the toy just because no one can find the toys. That was one of the things where they were making the toys, and it was flying off shelves when it first came out. I vividly remember that, because I know, like, months before my birthday, we went to, I think, KB Toys in the mall, and we were there really, really early. And we were in a long, long line. And the way it was in order to keep pandemonium from happening, because I think at some stores they had realized, if we just open doors, people are trampling each other and fighting to get these toys, as they would later do on for Pokemon and whatever other craze came after Pokemon. Pokemon was the last, I think,
Yu-Gi-Oh! I think was
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of big. I don't think as big as some of these other things.
I remember my brother forcing me to duel him all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh!
I think Pokemon was like the last kid craze that I got somewhat caught up in, and like even
and now it has a resurgence.
Well, Pokemon never really went away.
Yeah,
it just kind of stayed.
It's kind of like Power Rangers.
Yeah,
but yeah, I cannot honestly say that I do not remember any sort of toy craze.
But anyway, because you were in Batman.
Yeah,
and Batman stuff wasn't part of the craze.
Yeah.
You could always get Batman stuff. Power Rangers not the case, where it was really hard to get some of their stuff.
Yeah.
And for some things, you really had to try desperately hard. And like there were people scalping toys. Like that's where that Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
That's what that's based on.
Oh, okay.
That's why that figure he's looking for looks like a Power Ranger doll.
Ah.
And so hard, it was that hard to get. That's where that movie comes from.
Okay.
So I remember months before my birthday, we went to KB, as I was saying, and the way they had it set up was they had a line, and here were the aisles, and in the middle of the aisle was a table.
Okay.
And that was manned by the staff. And then all they did was, what do you want? We have this many. You can only have this many.
Right.
Because we have that many people.
Right.
And so my parents were like, okay, we have a limit of however many. So you get to pick them.
Okay.
And you only get to pick one of these things. So I remember one of my top picks was Dragon Zord.
Yeah.
That was the one I definitely wanted.
Yeah.
I forget what the other two were. Because I didn't have a lot of the Zords.
Yeah.
I had a couple of the monsters, and I think I got all the original Power Ranger figures.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Now that I think about it, it's not, especially at that time, it wasn't just the fact that I was so into Batman, but I didn't play with any toys that weren't Legos.
That's also probably it.
You know?
And Legos weren't very hard to get either.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking this was probably, 94, 95? I was...
Oh, yeah.
12, 13? Yeah, I didn't hear about action figures.
Oh, I would say probably in 93 it started, because it was such an instant hit.
Yeah, that's true. So I was, I never really did. I kind of found my niche with Legos and Batman, and, in 2007, when I found out Batman Legos was, I'm like, finally, my dreams have been realized. So I didn't care about anything else, so... I was like, oh, cool. They make Power Ranger stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go make Power Ranger Legos.
So here's the thing. It's like they got it. They actually had the Dragon Zord.
Yeah.
And they bought it. But here was the catch.
Okay.
It was my birthday present. And that was the one time where I knew what I was going to get. But it was long before my birthday. So that was one of those things where like, I want to play with it so bad, but it's not my birthday yet.
Yeah.
But they had to do it because they're like, okay, this is when we know it's going to be here. Mm-hmm. And we need him here because we got to know what he wants because there's so much other stuff.
Yeah.
And some of it that he probably doesn't want.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to bring me, however early it was. And so I had the note, but they were also like, so you got to be good, or else you're not going to get it. But I did get it, and I still own it.
Yeah. In fact, we actually brought it down here not too long ago and we're playing with it.
Because he wants to model that off for his Lego Power Rangers.
Yeah.
But I did take it out.
And maybe make a Dragon Zord costume. Who knows?
But I did take it out, and it's one of those things where you take it out and you're like, this is why I kept it. Because it was like rush of good memories for that. For that, definitely that one toy. I did like some of the other ones, and I do remember having a cheap version of the Megazord, where it wasn't the main Zord, it was just like a small version of it already made, and it didn't come apart.
Yeah.
But it was there for the purpose. And it worked. I couldn't really complain. I was able to play Power Rangers.
I do remember very briefly when my brother... I got them just because my brother got something at the same time. They actually made Power Rangers Micro Machines.
Oh, okay.
And I had some Micro Machines. I was pretty into those.
Well, I had a couple of Micro Machines.
Not a lot. I had a couple building a police station, which I actually modeled my Gotham police station after for my Lego city.
Oh, well, how about that?
What did I have? I had a police station, a gas station, a fire station, and a train station.
I think I had a car wash.
And I had those, they were already some sets, and I had some little, they were kind of neat. It was like, they were foldables.
Yeah,
it was like a container. It was a container, and you unfolded it, and it was like a little scene, and you could like put together a little. I remember one was a little hospital, and had a little ambulance car with it. So I had those already. We were in the store. I'm like, oh, cool! It's Power Ranger Micro Machines, and they were like little sets of just like a couple guys and like a Zord or two. And I got one that had the Dragon Zord, and some of the characters, and then Goldar on some of the characters. That's all I really remember. Using that Dragon Zord Micro Machine, that's what I was using as the only reference guide I had to build my Lego Dragon Zord. So needless to say, it did not come out as good as I would like it, because it was very small and not a lot of detail.
Well, now you have a bigger version of it.
Now I have a bigger version, and it actually functions and goes apart and all that stuff the way it did in the show. So that's going to be nice and helpful. But that was the extent of my Power Ranger merchandising too.
Yeah, I mean, I know I didn't buy anything after like that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any. Oh, I take that back. I do have a couple second generation, because I do remember I have the White Tiger.
Okay.
And I know for a fact I have the Red Dragon.
Oh.
What?
Forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned White Tiger. There was a magazine that we had. It was like a Sears catalog or something. Mom would always get those, and every Christmas time they would have a bunch of toys in there. And so they had this really good sized picture of Saba.
Okay.
The White Ranger's saber.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that, and I actually built a full-size Saba saber out of Legos with a movable mouth and everything.
Say that 3 times fast.
Movable mouth.
No, Saba Saber.
Saba saber, Saba saber, Saba saber. That thing was awesome. I mean, it was good and sturdy, too. You could, wield it and everything.
I still have that, too, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Not the Lego one, but the Saba sword. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of keeping the batteries in it, so it doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah. Battery acid tends to leak.
Yeah. Same thing for the dragon.
I did open it up and clean it, and I think we tried it again, but it still didn't work. But
same thing with the Dragon Zord. I left the batteries in. However, it does still work.
Yeah.
Just not well at the moment. We need to clean it out.
Yeah. But that's okay.
But there's hope. It does work. And I'm like, yay, that's the one I really wanted to still work.
I may have to rebuild the Saba saber.
Just the one toy I always wanted, though, and never ever got, and was the Dragon Dagger. I never got it.
Well, and it's a shame because, when they re-released the Dragon Dagger...
I didn't want it.
Well, it's not the version that you...
It's not the version I really wanted. I didn't really... And the thing was, even though I could have gotten the newer version, that the 8-year-old me, or however old I was when it came out,
yeah,
like, the 8-year-old me really wanted it. Then the 20-something-year-old me was like, it's not the one I want.
It's not the one you want,
plus it's like... And the one I do want, one is expensive, which means it's not a priority in life. There's other things I can...
Well, it's not so much that, but it's also the fact that, yes, I could get it, but it's getting it now versus getting it then.
I mean, it's sort of thing like, if I had a ton of money, spare money, I'd totally get it, just to be like, I got it!
Well, I will tell you, when they re-released the Ninja Turtle figures about a year or two ago, in the original packaging and everything, I was like, oh, this is cool, I can get them finally. And it's like, yeah, but it's like,
now. I could, but I have no use for them.
Well, it's not even that. For me, it was like, yeah, I could get them, and I could actually get the collection, get all 4 turtles, get Splinter, get April. But it's like, the memory of me getting the turtleware on Christmas is more powerful and something I'm going to enjoy much more for the rest of my life.
Then you want to just go out and buy it now.
Yeah. And that's for me what it is. It's like, if I had kept my figures instead of selling them at a garage sale, then that'd be one thing. I'd totally bring them out and play with them and that sort of thing. But I think we did with Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. I hope you're listening.
But it's one of those things where, going out and buying a figure now that was available when you were a kid, but you weren't able to get it, it doesn't have the same effect. Regardless of whether you have the money or not.
Yeah, it's true.
It wouldn't matter if I was making, $60,000, $60,000, $100,000, $1 million a year. It still wouldn't have the same effect as getting it when I was a kid and keeping it and being able to look at this figure here, knowing that I've played with this figure, and and I can, you can see where it's got the little nicks and stuff from when you're playing with it too hard. It's just,
you can definitely tell some of my figures.
These
were played with.
That's just more worth it to me. Like, my mom still has all my Batman. I'm taking those things. Like, those are mine. And she still has some of my stuff. Just because, when you move to a space where you don't have as much storage space as you like, and then you decide to fill it up with more Legos and sewing stuff, you tend to not have a lot of space for your other stuff. But, when I pull out and I will, actually, I'll probably do it this year for Dark Knight Rises.
I'm not surprised.
We'll totally do that. But when I pull those out, I'm going to be able to look at those figures, and know how they were played with and what we did with them, that sort of thing. Versus going out now and getting a Batman figure.
Yeah.
Especially since the action figures they have now are just not as good as the figures they made back then.
Some of them are. Some of them aren't.
Well, they're not as sturdy.
I suppose.
Quality-wise, as far as sturdiness, they're just not as good.
Well, yeah, didn't you get Joker and immediately his head fell off?
Well, yes, there is that. Those are the figures I'm talking about, actually.
Oh, okay.
Those are an upgraded model called the Movie Masters. When they do have those for Captain America and Thor right now. I mean the regular figures.
Okay, like the cheaper ones.
The cheaper ones that were the normal figures when we were kids.
Yeah.
They're chinchier. They're less quality. Plus, they don't have. I mean, one of my favorite figures to play with, if I told you about this, probably the same one you had, was the Batman that had the part of the belt was was separated, and he had the string that went inside and had a winch, and you'd hook that up to something, and he would actually grapple or go up, and that sort of thing. It had the clip-on cape that was fabric, and then you had the Robin with karate chop action. Those were my favorite figures as a kid, but they were actually really durable. And when's the last time we've gotten an action figure with karate chop action? Exactly. The fact that you have to think about it says too long.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You want to know my all-time favorite action figure, not Power Ranger doll type?
Yeah,
thing?
just figure.
Just action figure. It was based from the Spider-Man cartoon.
Okay.
And it was the one that had the spring-loaded web shooter.
Oh, nice.
Arm. And thinking back, the one arm was like this, so you really couldn't do a whole lot of movement with it.
Yeah.
But the figure itself was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Solidly put together. It had joints for the arms and legs.
Yeah.
Other than the one arm, but then the one was spring-loaded.
Yeah.
But I played with that a lot. That was one of my all-time favorite figures, so I played the heck out of that one. And then,
I can believe it.
I was big into Spider-Man action figures. I didn't have a ton of them, but I did collect. I'm not going to say collect. I played with them.
Yeah.
I bought them and played with them.
That's what you should do with your figures. You should play with your action figures.
Yep.
A good example of what you should not do with your action figures is one of my friends, Sarah, her brother-in-law. It's not that he goes out and buys these things. His dad. After his dad decided that, when Steve was done playing with Star Wars figures, he was going to give them away. This was back in the early 80s. And then 15, 20 years later, when he realized, oh, I could have put him through college with these. Oh, crap. I'm going to buy every Star Wars figure I can now. And so there is what they call the Star Wars room at Sarah's house.
I've seen it. It's pretty crazy.
Well, the thing is, It's
That's
wall
what
to
her
wall.
sister tries to use as her office. So there is actually a computer and a desk in the very back of this room. It's not just wall to wall. I mean, you might as well. You have to like sidestep and shimmy, and it's like, I look up and they actually have. He's got a Lego set or two. He's got the toy lightsabers. It's like, this is a waste. You have two daughters who are right now big into Disney princesses and fairies and that sort of stuff because they're 5, and it's like, what are you going to do with this? You don't even, and the worst part about it is he doesn't even know who 90% of those characters are, nor the ship names. I mean, that's just kind of a waste,
So I should really tell him some of that stuff's not going to go up in value.
A lot of that stuff is not going to go up in value because everyone had the same idea, and value goes up based on rarity.
Mm-hmm.
The Power Rangers figures that we played with, that you played with as kids, and the Micro Machine stuff that I had, in the condition it's in, probably not worth much, but if it's rare enough, it could be worth more. Because even though at the time they sold a lot, well, how many figures are actually going to stay in their original condition? Especially when they're played by with a bunch of little kids. Not much. So.
All right. One more vivid memory before we close.
Okay.
Unless you have more to say on Power Rangers. And this is a quick one.
Okay.
But I'm going to embarrass my friend Mike.
It's okay. He's not here.
He's not here, and he can't defend himself. And it's got to be at 93. So you're the math person. At 93, okay. How old would I be?
Well, you were born in 83, right?
Yes.
So you'd be 10.
I would be 10. Mike is a couple years behind me.
5, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
So he would
be 5.
Let's say he was 6.
Okay.
So he was probably 6.
Maybe 5 going on 6 or something like that.
5 going on
close
6.
to 6.
So I vividly remember him being very excited at the fact that Power Rangers were on. But being a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, sometimes you don't say things totally correct.
Okay.
So we were outside playing, do whatever, and then he realized what time it was.
Right.
And so he's like, guys, Power Rangers is coming on!
Power Rangers?
Yes.
Okay.
And everyone around
started busting out laughing.
Just like, no, we just busted his chops. Like, the Power Rangers, eh? All right. Let's watch these Power Rangers. Are they cats? Do they have cat ears on their helmets?
Well, there was that, the samurai...
Samurai Pizza Cats.
So,
which was more of a parody of the Ninja Turtles.
Well, yeah, but still.
But still an awesome show. That was a great show. I love that show.
The Samurai Pizza Cats.
Samurai Pizza Cats. I could probably sing the whole song. I'm not going to. I watched that every day for a while.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things where it was drawn during middle school times. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things we had to get up early, and my mom would try to get me to eat breakfast, which was around the time I stopped eating breakfast because I'm like, I'm not hungry. I don't eat early morning stuff. I'm fine. But it's one of those things where it's on. You're up, you got to eat, turn something on to help wake you up, and that would be on. So I would watch that almost every day before going to school.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. So you were watching the Power Rangers.
Yes, in a way I was.
They just weren't called the Power Rangers. They were called the Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yes.
Mike was just a little bit behind there.
It's all right.
It's all right. Power Rangers. That's pretty funny. No, I'm trying to think, actually. No, I mean, I certainly enjoyed the show for what it was. And like I said, I have my own idea as to what I'd like to see. And like I said, I'd kind of like to, if it's, a couple of years down the road, kind of get things. I've got enough projects going on right now, but, in about 3-4 years or so, I'm thinking this would be something that would be interesting to try to do, especially since I actually know someone that's going into computer animation. So that would certainly be helpful.
Yep.
But, I think it'd be interesting, even just for myself, even if nobody else likes the idea, just for me to be able to see it, to me that's worth it. It's kind of like my rewriting of Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And I do plan on doing a trailer for it. Well, it's like one of those things. Even if nobody else likes it, as long as I get to see it happen, that's all that matters to me.
I forgot to mention this earlier.
Ron Wasserman created the theme song.
Okay.
The Go-Go Power Rangers theme song
Nice.
that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Where it's like, even if you hated the show growing up, you had to admit, theme song was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. It was catchy. It got you pumped up for the show.
It was a simple song, but it was a good simple song. It was catchy, studied in your head.
Well, what I remember really quite vividly was how much energy was in the theme song and how it got you, you're like, yeah. By the time you get to the show, you're like, yeah! So it gets you pumped up for it. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah! And they start fighting. So sort of stuff.
I think every now and then they started with action.
Yeah. I do remember, and I'm not sure if I've told you about this other show or not, but there was, I don't want to call it a spin-off, but it was clearly inspired by the Power Rangers.
Was this...
The Mystic Knights of Tir-na-nog.
Oh, no. I wasn't going to say that at all.
I have
no idea what that is.
Okay. The Mystic Knights of Tir-na-nog took place in the medieval times, medieval period, and it was, pretty much like in Scotland or Ireland, something like that. One of the girls, Deirdre, had a very, very prominent Scottish accent. Well, the reason I say that it was inspired by Power Rangers, because even though it was the medieval times, the different characters, it started off with 3 and then they added a 4th one. They had to find their armor of power. And their armor of power was of a certain element. Like you had fire, you had rock, you had forest, and then they had a different weapon to go with it. And similarly to Power Rangers, they would go and they would fight. I remember the early story arc was that they weren't just given their powers. They had to go on a quest to find their armor of power.
This sounds similar to that Lego thing.
The Ninjago?
No, are they Bionicle?
Bionicle?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where Bionicle was, once again, I think it was inspired by Power Rangers just on the basic concept. And I've started to see a lot of things actually. I don't know if they're directly inspired by Power Rangers or not, but you start to see the same concept of 4 or 5 characters, and they each are given a different power, and they have a different color associated with them. For instance, the Knights, the Forest Knight had brown and green. I guess it was either stone or rock. He had like a gray and black look to him. The Fire Knight had yellow and red. Clear color distinction. It's a specific look. It's a specific element, or in the case of Power Rangers, dinosaur. And the Bionicle did the same thing, where you had the different elements and they had different colors. And so I think that basic concept is something that just translates very well from different thing to thing. And so I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards it. But honestly, I say it's inspired by Power Rangers because that's where it all started. That's where really people started to take notice of this, I think.
Probably.
Because I know that's the first time I'd ever heard, even looking back, that's the first time I can pinpoint any kind of that basic concept ever being used on a large scale.
Probably. I can't think of anything before that.
Yeah.
I do know that, I said Bandai, it might also have been Saban who did Power Rangers.
Well,
I know there was more than one company.
From what I recall, Saban was the one who actually was the producer. Bandai, I think, was the one who was making the merchandise.
Okay. Well, I think they did have more spin-off. They had, I remember 2 spin-off type. They weren't really spin-offs. They were like different shows, but they used the same idea of, hey, let's use footage, and let's also have this robotic type look than the idea of having one person morph/change into something else.
Yeah.
There was the Masked Rider. And his whole gimmick was he had a talking car and a talking motorcycle.
That's not Knight Rider?
No.
Okay.
Masked Rider. He kind of looked like a bug.
Okay.
Helmet. And then they went up straight at bugs, and they had the
Beetleborgs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big bad Beetleborgs, which was not very good.
I remember... I think I remember seeing the intro once or twice, but because I remember the name, Beetleborgs, but that was about it.
I know I saw a couple episodes of that, and I was just like, yeah, this is one of those things this is clearly a Power Ranger ripoff, and they're not even trying to hide that fact. It was different, but it was dumb.
I will say, I was very upset with the fact that the Mystic Knights went off the air because it was completely new. It was, yes, you had inspiration. I was like, hey, this is kind of like Power Rangers because they have different elements and they have the different costumes and all. But what I liked about it is, A, it was medieval period, which I thought was so much cooler than, robots and that sort of stuff. Plus, it was actually done really well for what it was. And everything had to be built from scratch. I mean, the suits had to be built from scratch. It's not like they took previous footage and all this. And, for TV at the time, it was, at least from what I remember, pretty good. It was certainly, I think, probably crafted better than Power Rangers because it didn't have a cheese factor to it. But it's one of those shows like, I'd like to sit down and watch that. I would have liked to have seen that continue. But Power Rangers certainly started it all.
And have outlasted it all.
Yeah.
Because even
They
though
certainly have lasted a long time.
Because even though the show that we know and love isn't really technically still going,
Yeah.
some variation of it still is.
It's very true.
So hey,
And they're still selling costumes and merchandise, so.
Well, I guess it's one of those, if you have a good concept, run with it.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually what we worked with Bionicle for a while. Until they kind of retooled it because Bionicle, it's the same thing. They actually went through different versions of the characters. And then, they had the movie and they had the card game. I mean, that was a full-blown thing. They had the movie, they had the card game, they actually had a CD of music to go with it. Yeah. They had shoes that you could put on different masks on the top of the shoe.
Really?
Yeah. They had this was a full-blown spiel. And this was Lego. It's like, here, you can build these action figures and play with them and you can create your own stories. They had the comic book. I mean, it was a whole big thing. And this went on for a good 10 years at least. Because it was like late 90s when they came out with it, and it just ended back in 2008 or 2009. They actually, it took them a while to actually come to grips with the fact that, okay, we need to retool this. Now they have the hero factor, which I don't know anything about, other than it's build your guys. But yeah, Bionicle was Power Rangers in Lego form. Just not the way you thought of it, and it was handled differently. This basic idea of taking Japanese stock footage and editing it combined with American live action or actors
and dubbing
started it all. So who knows? Maybe it's someday in the future we'll see cool Power Rangers again on a larger scale, other than just seeing the merchandise at Walmart. Be like, wow, this is still going? Like, who knew? Go, go, Freaka Rangers! You mighty morphin' Freaka Rangers!
Freaks out.
Freaks in, freaks out.
The content of the Freakacast is copyright to Andrew Felson and Matthew Puetz. All characters belong to their respective owners. A full list of music used will be provided on the website. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Copyright 2012.
It's morphin' time! Dragon Sword!
Go!